Hello, everyone. Welcome to MMO Avengers. I'm Ricayu,
And I'm Tarnish.
and as you can tell from this big, giant background image there, we are covering World of Warcraft.
It's retail World of Warcraft. Let's go. So, I think I played a lot of this over the years. A lot of memories come back, um, good and bad. So, I guess the best place to start this one would be to start from the beginning and
Hmm.
kind of go through each expansion and highlight where things were good and where things were bad, and kind of so we can kind of just slowly go through time and figure out where things kind of spiraled out of control and figure out what we liked and what we didn't like. And I think this is going to help a lot of creators uh, understand the what they need to do at the real principle level. And I think when Classic came out, it gave World of Warcraft and Blizzard, they're kind of like, oh wow, we've really gotten away from what this game was truly about and what made it great. So let's go try and highlight all those great things and talk about the bad things and try and piece together the slow decline of World of Warcraft, um, which is I think is gaining momentum at this point. Um, and try and highlight the things that they need to keep in MMOs going forward. So in vanilla, we just played classics. This one should be pretty easy, just for to some extent. What are some of the things you liked about classic and or vanilla if you play vanilla, Rick?
I definitely have to rely on my classic experience versus vanilla because I really started playing more in BC. But honestly, I got to experience a full expansion from day one. Not being able to log in on Whitemane, which there are many people out there who experience that. Eventually, they came out with a couple new servers. I think I was waiting like 14 hours just in queue, but I was so excited. I was so eager. I'm like, ah. And I actually had gotten on and I was so excited. I'm like, woo. And then you get disconnected. And then you're waiting in queue. But I could care less. I was there because I wanted to experience it. And I was pumped and stoked. Eventually went to a new server because Whitemane was just too big. I still am rating in Naxxramas, although I don't have everything except the Hammer Twisting Other off of KT, which is the final boss of the expansion in Nax. But literally, I'm geared out the wazoo. If I playing BC, holy crud, I've got everything. I literally go to raid. I never get gear. I'm just supporting the guild. They need me for AQ. I'm just there to support the guild. But what do I love about it? I love the trade chat. I love the community. I love that people know people. Like there's this guy named Waffle X on our server who just like literally like he just harasses people about dropping rend all the time. And but you just know people. Like there's actually interaction with a bunch of strangers, and like you just like, and I never even have talked to that guy, but like people know about him. It's just there's a community there. And there's no other way of connecting with people than actually typing in, chatting, hey, let's group up, joining a guild. So the community is awesome. And that's my favorite part about definitely BC. I'm sorry, vanilla and classic. That'd be my number one.
Yeah, there definitely is a huge sense of community, and the thing is, there was no cross server or anything like that at this time. So when you were the good tank or a good healer, or if you were a good PvPer, or if you were um honestly just a troll, everyone knew who you were. You know, everyone, oh, it's that guy. I can't believe that guy. That guy's full of crap. Or oh man, there he goes again, ranting about the same thing every day. Or oh no, this guy's begging for money again. You kind of know who everybody is, and then everyone has their own reputation, which that reputation is something that disappeared relatively quickly in World of Warcraft's history. Is as soon as they started cross server, it kind of ruined that. So that's one of the things we kind of figured out going forward, which they add that in. I think was it Wrath they did that. I don't remember, but Yeah, so that definitely is cool. Um, I think it was also the community for me. Like I said, going back, thinking about Vanilla being that little a warrior who wanted the tank, but was in a little family guild of 4 or 5 people that had there was no way we were ever gonna raid. So I'd pug in with other guilds whenever they needed people, and it was kind of like a little niche community, where they kind of knew, oh, this guy's a good tank, let's bring him in, and so you get a reputation, and then it earns you a spot on a raid team somewhere. Um, that's completely gone, I think, in retail today. So I guess that's a good thing, right? So we started off with really good, big, huge communities. Warcraft Vanilla required 40-man raids. I think that's way too big a raid size, but that's what we started off as, and it required huge community efforts to do a lot of things like attunements and other things, because attunements sometimes require to kill a boss that was really hard to kill. So a lot of that, a lot of group quests, a lot of group where you actually need a group. You can't just solo it. So yeah, it's a lot of community effort. So I guess we should move along to TBC and highlight, I guess, some of the changes. So TBC, we move to TBC and we get smaller raid sizes. We go from 40-man raids to 25-man raids. And on top of the 25-man raids, we have a lot of cool, really difficult, a huge step up from uh, from vanilla. We have a huge step up in difficulty. Some of the raids being very, very difficult. Some of them impossible. Um, for a short while, and then they end up getting fixed and or nerfed. Then we have introduction to flying in Azeroth, and we have introduction to our new way of obtaining legendaries. Instead of having to do this quest and get this item, we actually get an actual legendary item that just drops off of a boss. So a little bit of changes going on there. What were you thinking? The good and the bad things. Give us the pros and cons of TVC, Rakayu.
I definitely think the rating community really was figuring things out. And like if, as far as I had a buddy of mine who was one of the best warlocks in the world. He was in the number one guild in the world, and literally using calculus. He was like he's taught Calc 3. He was like a wasn't a professor, but he was like he went to school to be one. Like he proved to Blizzard that it was impossible for them to do like Muru. It was just too hard. It was like he was like he literally brought his data to Blizzard. Um, so you have this really the emergence of really the min max culture. I think you start to get people who are really trying to eke out every square inch of DPS. And that's BC that I think that flies off the handles because I don't think in vanilla, I think there's things that we thought we knew, um, but I mean, I think one of the examples is tank stacked tons of defense and tank stacked. There's a lot of things that people did in vanilla that now in classic people did not do. It was kind of like, nah, yeah, that wasn't that's probably what we should have done back then. In TBC, people have really figured it out, and this is where I was really rating a lot. I was while he was in the number one guild in the world, I was in the number four guild on the server, which we were on the same server. They're raiders that would burn out, and they literally tried to keep. They lived to raid. That was they did nothing else. I was in the number four guild. Like they would burn out, and they would come and join our raid group, and we just kind of it was just more of a fun. But we would clear everything in about 4 hours. But the amount of things that they were trying to do, or the hard modes and the difficulty that they were trying to do, the times, the speed, like they literally were focused on all those things. They would burn out and come join us, recoup for a month, and they would go back up to the number one. So it was kind of like we were like the kind of the ground where we kind of hung out. So I rated a very, very high level back then. So one of my favorite things was just the rating. The raids were awesome. They were great. The difficulty, they were hard. Tempest Keep, there were so few people to clear that. Serpent Shrine Cavern kicked people's butt. More people got through that, Lady Vash. But that fight, there were so many things going on. Like if you did not have spatial awareness, you better learn it because it was like there was like everywhere, right? And then you had to clear both of those bosses just to get to Hyjal. And then after you clear Hyjal, then you get to enter Black Temple. So there was these attunements that you had to get up, and so few people were doing Black Temple. If you were in Black Temple, like that was bragging rights. If you had something from Black Temple, people were like, ah, it was like there was a prestige to raiding that I really feel that gets lost in future expansions. It's just, oh yeah, I got that in Raid Finder. So there was definitely that. There was the reward of just like, wow, my time and my effort. I feel like I feel really good about this, and I actually like I'm a part of this team. I think the other thing too is when a legendary did drop. Like I remember when our first Warglaive of Azeroth dropped. It wasn't, oh, and I don't get to have that. I'm a priest. I'm not going to get to have that anyway. But it was like we were all so pumped and so excited. It was like, oh my gosh, we got a legendary. It wasn't, oh, well, oh, so and so's going to get it. No, it was ours. It was our guild. It was something that we earned and something that we were all happy for. And so, again, the community was very strong. It was only 25, it was a lot less than the 40 that I'm doing now in Classic, but it was really, really, really cool. Like it was just, it was awesome. It was fun. And then going against those impossible things when we actually went into Sunwell. Sunwell was not initially meant for Burning Crusade. I actually have the collector's edition for Wrath of Lich King, where Sunwell is the first raid on the box. Um, so it was actually meant
So what were
for.
the pros and cons?
Oh, I'm
Sorry, we
sorry.
don't have big old pros
No,
and
no, no. I
cons.
know. Pros
Pros
and
and
cons.
cons.
Rating was great. The community was still great. I think the cons, you start getting into busy work where you have to do so many dailies. The amount of reputation you had to get just to get anything, you were just literally. And then you only had 20. Then they expanded to 25, so you're happy. Oh my gosh, you get 5 more dailies. Phew. Okay. So it was just you start getting into this busy work type of thing where you have to. So that was kind of sucky. But and so it was just and you had to do the reputations. You had to get the different enchants if you want that min max culture. So I think the con is we start getting this emergence of a min max culture, and that's also another con. And I think that that's going to be something I don't know if Blizzard ever recovered from. That we are so min max. That's who we are as Blizzard players. Um, and we can be jerks about it. We can be elitist about it. We can be, um, and I think that that's something that you really start to see happening in Burning Crusade.
Yeah. So TVC was definitely different. Like I said, with the flying. Originally, I don't think anyone really cared about flying until it really started to affect PvP, right? And then PvP, everyone's like, man, everyone just flies away whenever they're in trouble. So the immersion with the flying, it was cool when you're up in the air, but it was also bad for PvP. So we had the first issue with flying. I think that was a huge thing going forward, right? Flying kind of ruined a lot of aspects of the game because once there's a faster way of travel, everyone's rushing to it, and then you're racing around the world, getting everything done quicker and quicker, and then going from point A to point B. And then, like I said, being able to escape PvP situations and or greet people who don't have flying yet. These are different situations that kind of started to
That
arise.
happened to me. I'm just like there,
Yeah,
la 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 la. Someone lands. I'm like, huh, please don't kill me.
yeah.
Wah
Sometimes
wah
it was
wah.
kind of funny because like now you were looking at the sky, you're like, oh, God, is anyone coming? Like, so it was a little bit interesting. Obviously the rating kept getting better. I think rating is obviously something that World of Warcraft in general has always done right. Even today, I think in retail they always get the raids really done really well. They're difficult, very difficult. Uh, Flying though, I have to say is one con that we're going to later find out that kind of really affect continue to snowball. And then we also have like you said, daily quests. Daily quests is the first set of chores that we got to do. Right now we have chores we have to do. We're going to do our chores every day, and then instead of the chores being something that we want to do for raid, they're now something we have to do in order to be successful in the game. So I guess that would be a con. So it looks like our pros are rating is getting better. Our raid sizes are getting smaller, which means easier access to the content. Um, easier time managing the guilds, and then we have the cons of flying and daily quests merging into the game. Is there any other cons you see that might want to be added or pros?
Uh, Getting rid of world buffs. I mean, I think that's a con for vanilla and classic world buffs.
Yeah, so
Suck.
actually in original TBC, world buffs were actually still a thing. Some of those first kills with pre nerf, they required world buffs from vanilla. So
But getting rid of those eventually that you didn't have to do it is,
yeah,
I think, a big improvement.
yeah. So definitely a good thing going back and thinking about it. Although I say back in those days, not very people were using them. It was pretty much the sweaty people at the very top that were using them. Um, Now let's move into the most infamous expansion in World of Warcraft's history, Wrath of the Lich King. Wrath of the Lich King introduced again a smaller raid size, so you had the choice of 10 man or 25 man, and they had different lockouts, which was kind of cool. And then uh, you had a group finder, which I think most people agree kind of started to take down the community, and started to become more solo player. This is the first change for solo players who didn't have a guild can now just jump into a group finder and find a group to play with. Sounds like a good thing. As we go forward in the future, you start realizing this is actually deconstructing the community. Um, I think this is also where we get cross server play as well with the group finder. So, with that being the case, you have less people becoming that one guy on the server that you know about. That goes away. You also start finding more rude people in dungeons because you're never going to see these people ever again. So instead of rolling for that chest like you learned in vanilla and TBC, the roll for a chest, be respectful with your team members, it turned into I'm going to loot it as fast as I can because who cares? And if you kick me from a group, I'll just requeue. So the community now is starting to change a little bit, although everyone still has the practices of TBC and vanilla. So we are used to being in communities and acting a certain way with conduct. If we went back and did Wrath today, it would be completely different, simply because we're not no longer associated with these huge communities and being part of a community. We're now solo players who happen to play together. So, with that, what do you think are the pros and cons of Wrath of Lich King, Rick?
Pros and cons. I think definitely you start to see a lot more variety in the questing. I think most of the quests in World of Warcraft are you're gonna get okay, go kill. I mean, this still exists. I mean, there's not a lot of variety. Go kill 30 tigers. Go kill 30 raptors. Go kill 30 panthers. I mean, how many times am I gonna have to go help that hunter? And how many expansions? Um, it's just it's like, but the reward is good, so you have to do it. So you're like, all right, I guess I'm gonna do this. And I guess I want the chance to get the pets or the rep or whatever. But you start to see, like with the Argent tournament, you start to see that you can actually like joust, and so they start coming out with some pretty cool things. Also, I really felt that some of the raids, the storyline in the area, you actually saw like Prince Valinar in the dungeon. You saw him a quest, and then you saw him as a boss raid. So it wasn't like these mysterious figures that are just magically appearing in a raid. I actually there's some lore there, and I'm like, oh wow, like I quested in these mountains, and like there's all of these like references, like oh that guy's in. It was really neat to see those bosses in Ulduar, and like I'm like oh it was cool. So I was really appreciative of that. That I wasn't just fighting a stranger. I'm like oh this is Freya who we that it was neat. It was neat to kind of see all that. You start to see some phasing, which that was the first thing that this is introduced. So you actually it was also kind of annoying because it's phased for you and it's not phased for me, and I'm like, where did you go? But it was neat. That was revolutionary at the time to actually like the area changed, and so now there's like a tower there which wasn't there before, and so you always knew who hadn't done the quest. So there was lots of new things that they were experimenting with and trying that I really felt like were paying off and exciting and fun. And so there's just some more variety. I think it's Arthas. Come on, that's a big pro. I mean, we are gonna go against Arthas, let's kill that little whining. Okay, like it was so when we killed him. Oh, it was so good. It was so good. Definitely, it was definitely really cool. Raiding also very complex mechanics. There's some new things that we hadn't seen before. There's some really tough fights. I think also giving us hard modes. So you kind of saw in Ulduar, you could actually go the easy mode, or you can do the achievements for like all the harder things. So if you're a guild and you want to get the mounts, so you can actually do all the hard modes. So there's just things that a guild could do. Like we cleared the content pretty fast, but getting Alone in the Darkness in Ulduar, that was hard. Getting Undying and Nax, no one can die. Oh, someone gets it. Okay.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me of the title I never got. Yeah, thank you.
me neither. Um, I think we had one person who got like a bolt, and it was like a crit, and they got killed at the last second. The next week, my guild did it, and it was just something I had planned for like a couple months. Hey, I have to be gone to this date, and then they did it, and they never even tried it. They're like, dude, we'll try, but once everyone else had it, so I never got my like Proto Drake that I wanted so bad. Uh,
Yeah,
but
I'm absolutely mad about that.
it was challenging. I mean, but so there was all these new things that they had going for it that really just spiced it up, and it made things a little bit more exciting. Um, and just the world was really cool. Like it was a whole continent. I also they resolved something in TBC. Hellfire Peninsula sucked to like try to level up. Some people tried to skip it. It was terrible. Like all the players. So they went ahead and said, okay, well, we're going to have two zones. You can start over here or over here, and you're going to work your way in Northrend. You start on the ends, and you can work your way into the interior, where you're going to get more and more PvP. And one of them was more alliance friendly, one of them was more horde friendly, and then although you could start on either side, but it just spaced us out a lot more and resolved some of that world PvP headaches that we were just like really struggling for. So there was lots of things that they did that I think they're paying attention to and they resolved. So I think Wrath is a masterpiece. I think it was an incredible expansion.
Yeah, I definitely I agree. The questing was uh, probably at its peak there, with lore combined with the quests. I mean, obviously you still have to go kill this many of this many of that, but the quests you definitely tell they made an effort to make things a little more interesting. You're feeding birds up in the sky, or with meat you get off of hounds. Like you're doing stuff. You're flying around, dropping bombs on ships. Like the quests get a little more interactive, but more so if you're actually paying attention. I remember I completed a couple zones just because I wanted to know what was happening. I wanted to know who was behind whatever was going on. I wanted to see it all. And I definitely played Warcraft, but I just wanted to see in World of Warcraft all the cutscenes. So if you wanted to do the whole area, so you could see the cutscene, and then so sometimes the cutscene was good, sometimes it wasn't. But I'll never forget the day that I saw the cutscene, and was it Howling? No, it's not Howling Ford. It's the what's the snow area out there? Um, I don't remember. There's a snow area with a big tower with all the dragons, and once you finish all the quests there, you get a cutscene, and it's Sourfang's son and Tyrion. Is it Tyrion? I forgot what his damn name is. Dude sitting on the throne. Anyways, uh,
Arthas?
no, Four Dragon. What's his
Oh,
name?
Bolvar for Dragon.
Bolvar. Bolvar and Sourfang are at the gates calling for Arthas, and then Arthas comes out, and
Ice
Sourfang
Crown
charges him,
is the name of the zone.
and well, no, it's actually the zone below Ice Crown. But yeah, it's a snowy area. But yeah, so anyways, they're
Koldara,
at the
maybe?
I forgot, but they're at the gate basically calling for Arthas to come out because they don't want to go into Ice Crown. And then Arthas comes out, and then that's where they kind of had a thing where they ended up like retconning it, but they had the Forsaken dropping bombs on everybody and poisoning everybody. And I think everybody at the time was kind of confused by that. I still was a little confused by that. I was like, is Forsaken going rogue? Like, what's going on here? So I don't know, but it was pretty cool because Arthas just decimated Sourfang.
Dragonblight. It was Dragonblight.
Dragonblight. There you go. Yeah. So decimated Sourfang and then poison the dragons. It was a really cool cutscene. I'll never forget this day I saw that. I was like, I have a friend, Josh, or whose name's Reconciling Game. It's like, shut up, it's cutscene, you know. And then we were watching, and he's like, "What the heck was that?" I was like, "That was badass." Yeah, so yeah, I remember being so pumped for that expansion. The Undead and the Death Knights being the new hero class, the first hero class, I guess, and the only hero class. I don't think we got another hero class. Um, Pretty cool. You know, Death Knights are overpowered at crap. They're very cool and fun to play. And the raids obviously kept the quality of the raids continue to get better, and the raid sizes seem to be getting smaller. So more people are able to interact. There's more raid groups, more tanks are being utilized, more healers are being utilized. It just gives everyone more ability to just grab 10 people and jump in the content and have fun. So if you have friends, you know, if you have 5 or 6 friends, you already have most of a raid team. You just recruit a couple people and you boom, you're inside of a raid knocking stuff out. It's a lot of fun. Um, Wrath was a complete blast between the titles, the achievements, the modes, the titles, the rewards. Everything was on point. Group Finder was where I have to say the biggest thing, and the cross server. That was something that I really felt like long term, it just snowballs and continues to get worse. Flying is still an issue. You have people flying out, getting away from hazard situations, coming down, ganking you, flying away. You don't know where he's at, comes back, ganks. So the flying definitely is an issue. Although nothing's cooler than flying, right? You're flying around over an area that's really cool. It's pretty sweet. So that's the pros and cons of Wrath, I would have to say. And now we're gonna move into Cataclysm, which is where most people consider this is where WoW started to decline. Um, I played all of Cataclysm with a small break in the middle, and I have to say I enjoyed Cataclysm. Obviously, I quit World of Warcraft at the end of Cataclysm because of some of these changes. So obviously, I know them pretty well. Honestly, get out of the way. The biggest con of Cataclysm is just going to be looking for raid. Um, they created the first looking for raid, and looking for raid is wrong on so many levels. It shouldn't give gear. It shouldn't give epic quality gear. It should not do it. Looking for raid was intended so that players who did not raid or couldn't raid at a normal level, which is kind of sad to say, but normal was too hard for them, and they want to know what happens. So they created looking for raid. It was supposed to be a joke, and it was a joke. And for a while, it gave very close gear to what normal and heroic gave. So it was like, what is this? So you have all these items dropping there just barely weaker than normal. And for the first time ever, you saw raiders that rated heroic going down and doing looking for raid to finish their tier sets. And that was disgusting. So some cool things they did bring in are ideas that they didn't completely. I wish they were stronger on it. So they had a level up system for the guild, which was cool. However, it was a little. They made it a little bit easy to level up because they wanted small guilds to be able to compete with big guilds, and I think that was wrong. I think there should be places for small guilds and places for big guilds, and I think that taking away that tier system, which I don't know if you even need the tier system, but it's kind of sad when you have a system to encourage community interaction, and then you make it so that you don't need a community to do it anymore. Like that was counterproductive. So they brought in a cool system and then they destroyed it. And then you so you have 2 players doing everything for the entire guild. That breaks the whole system, right? You're supposed to use groups to do half of these things, right? I think some of the breadcrumbs of that system is still in place today. They're usually like bonus events or something like that you do. So if you do so many raid bosses a day, you get so much gold in your guild bank, so on and so on. The system was way better in Cataclysm. It gave perks for wherever level you were. And I remember that's the first time we saw advertising this level guild recruiting for, you know. So if you had a decent level guild, people were like, oh, hey, I'll join that guild. So I guess it was kind of, I guess, toxic for the smaller guilds, but at the same time, I mean, you could get there, right? So more people you have, the better. Um, and then you have the 5-man raids that they were advertising and everybody was so stoked for, that they ended up nerfing into the ground so that they were just 5-man dungeons, which dropped epic gear. That was really sad to see. The 5-man raids. So when Zulaman first came out, um, or I think it was I think it was Zulaman is what there was. There's I think there was like 2 or 3 5-man raids. That they were old raids. They brought them back and created them into 5-mans, and they were very difficult when they first came out. Super difficult. It did feel like a 5-man raid, and it was very fun and cutthroat. As seasoned heroic raiders who cleared the raids relatively quickly in the first week or so, I know we struggled in those as 5-mans, but we were able to clear them. A lot of people in the server obviously could not, and eventually Blizzard caved to the backlash on the forums and nerfed them. So then you have the introduction of, eventually what happens is you have the good legendaries and the bad legendaries. So you have a tier system that goes green, blues, bad epics, good epics, which is kind of sad. Where those epics would have still been epic if the raid difficulty was difficult. So if those 5-mans were difficult, those legendary or those epics would have actually been higher quality because they would have been as found as often. So you would really have to do those or raid in order to obtain epic loot. They completely took that out of the game by nerfing the content. So good idea. They got nerfed. I think we're starting to see now that they're starting to cater to the solo players a little too much and starting to go against community, in my opinion. So they start to introduce really cool ideas and then back up on them because of the solo players or the people who are not really actually participating in the content, which is bad in my opinion. So, what do you think, Rick? Cataclysm.
I think you definitely hit it. I think looking for raid is a disaster, because what's happening is there's this subtle change from, hey, the community that we talked so heavily about in vanilla and in BC, that's kind of shrinking and it's degrading because we're becoming more and more isolated. Um, I can just do looking for group. I can just do, which is great if I just want to get like a quick, dungeon and stuff. But what did I do if I wanted to run a dungeon before? Hey, does anyone, want to run RFC? Does anyone? You just talk to people, you meet people, and I don't think that that's that complex. Just type in a trade and let's just build a group. But that's going away. So now we're doing that for raids. We're getting more and more away from the social interaction. And let's be honest, there's a lot of us gamers that kind of lack in social interaction, anyways. And this is really we're coming to these games to actually have social interactions, to actually hang out with people, to actually make some new friends, and we're being deprived of that. So in Cataclysm, okay, let's just go ahead and create a mechanic that's going to completely decimate. Like, hey, we're looking for another rogue, or looking for. So there's just no. It just nope. We're just going to go ahead and so we start becoming so isolated because we don't even need a guild anymore to do a raid. Like I don't need a guild. And I understand the idea of making content accessible. You know what you do to make content accessible? What they did at the end of Burning Crusade, they removed the attunements. Okay, you don't have to kill Lady Vash and Kael'thas to go ahead and clear Black Temple. We're going to go ahead at the end of the expansion, we'll remove it, so that way you all can experience it and get to appreciate it, which took away some of the specialness, and I didn't really like it as a raider who had earned it and took the pride that I had done these things. But there's ways of doing it without completely ruining the community, which is what really happens in Cataclysm. You literally have. Now, what were some of the pros? Again, I like the idea of being creative. I really hated that we're only going to have 5 levels. So we're going from 80 to 85. So, we start off, we can go up to level 60. Now we're going to go up to level 70. Now we'll go up to level 80. So 10 levels per expansion is the standard. It works. I don't know why you mess with something. If it's not broken, don't fix it. I think we're going to have lots of PvP issues with arenas that people don't like. There's lots of unbalancing things. Um, there's just so many things that are going on that they just and we haven't even really gotten to PvP. Maybe we talk about PvP later or another time because PvP throughout all these things, we've kind of left that out. And that is probably a whole conversation for another day because that I could spend a long time too. But let me stay focused. Pros and cons. Um, the cons, 5 levels. Okay, I loved that the whole world got redone. That was cool. It would have been cool though to see the zone. You know what? I don't like the new barons. Can I just phase to the old world? Because I just want a quest in the old barons, which they do like now. Like if like Undercity is completely wrecked, or you can just actually go into Undercity, the old Undercity. So they probably didn't have that capability back then, but that's something they could certainly institute now. But it was cool to see all these new quests and all this new content, but it was also bittersweet because you lost the world, and it wasn't like the world ever recouped. It was just like those fires in the Badlands. I mean, oh my gosh, that's been going there for the last 8 9 years. It's like they abandoned, so they redid the old world, and then it's going to be like they've abandoned. They pretty much never touch Azeroth again, and it's just gonna it's never recovered from the cataclysm. It's not, it's like everything is just they, and that's what they tend to do. And we start to see that really hardcore in cataclysm. Northrend pretty much abandoned. um Burning Crusade has been abandoned. We just abandoned these old content. We're just like, it's it's the past. So you're starting to see this. They're not incorporating these expansions that were so popular into the story. It's just whatever. Here's the new. So I think that is a flaw, and I understand that they had to redo. They wanted to introduce flying into Azeroth and Eastern Kingdoms, so they destroyed it all. So that way they could like technically, because some of the zones actually were not finished initially, so they actually had mountains that there was nothing behind it. So they technically redid the world so that way you actually could fly everywhere and actually was presentable. So that was kind of their way of kind of like fixing things and removing things. But I think flying, all the problems we're seeing flying with PvP now, you can fly into anywhere in the world and now have PvP issues as well. So I think Cataclysm, there's so many things that I hate. There's so many things. I hated Cataclysm. I hated it. So I don't have a lot of positive to say about Cataclysm. I'm just gonna leave it there.
Yeah, I think questing also was still getting better for Cataclysm. Thing There was multiple places you can go. You had to choose whichever area you wanted to quest in. Um, for the reason why I'm not really talking about PvP is because it's more about class balance with PvP. So you have arenas came in TBC. I guess we can mention that, and they maintained through all the way through. Cataclysm, you had the 2v2, 3v3, and 5v5 things, and you also had guild battles, whatever you could do, which were 10v10. But the thing is it's all about class balance on those. And going into digging into that would just cause this podcast to be really long. So not going to go too much in the class balance, although I have to say it wasn't really balanced relatively well. I don't think Warcraft has ever balanced really, really well. It's always very bad class imbalance. Typically in raids, everyone kind of just jumps to whatever is passable and then you play. So you can use whatever class you want. But with or for the most part, there's been a couple times where this class has been dead and they usually have to fix it. But with Cataclysm, we did have some legendary items. We had legendary daggers and a staff. Both were obtained through raiding and long quest chains. I did achieve my legendary daggers, which was pretty cool. I'd say it didn't feel as epic, although it was really cool. I felt really cool to get them. It was a long, horrendous. I was the second person on my server to get it. Would have been first, but that was Reconcile's fault. I reckon Josh. Damn you. So it was pretty cool. I have to say I enjoyed them. But they weren't quite at the same feeling I think you would have gotten if you got Thunder Fury or or the glaives back in TBC. It wasn't quite as epic. Or let's not even get into Shadowmoor. And like if you got Shadowmoor, holy cow, that was really cool. These daggers were relatively unheard of. Didn't really know what they were, where they came from, and they didn't look that cool. So you kind of just had a legendary. Um, it was a hard task to complete that. It took a lot of time. You had to actually there was a little boss in that question that you had to solo, and it was no easy feat. A lot of times, people were multiple rogues were jumping that boss doing at the same time because it was that hard. So if you could down that boss, you had to be worthy of the daggers, essentially, and so it was pretty cool. There were some things that were definitely cool, interesting, and I liked it. Um, we had Ragnaros on heroic, which was the most difficult, one of the most difficult bosses of all time. Which is very, it was a very fun raid. Firelands was probably the pinnacle of that expansion. Um, so like I said, I'm trying to highlight some of the good things here because a lot of people think that Cataclysm was this
I
horrible
have one. I
expansion.
have one. Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Siege of Orgrimmar, they came out with the super mythic hard difficulty. So we have, of course, normal, we have heroic, and so that was the introduction because there were a lot of players who were saying, you keep making this game easier, you keep making it easier for everybody. And so then they said, okay, we're going to give you guys a super difficult mode, and now you can go ahead and and have at it. And so that was something that they did for the Raiders. So now you have a third tier of difficulty. So that way, the people who really want it to do. So I guess that's something positive.
Oh, wasn't that in Warlord Draenor
Oh no, that was Pandaria. Never
or
mind, that's
Pandaria? Yeah,
Pandaria.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I'm pretty sure Mythic came later because
yeah,
in Cataclysm,
yeah. Cataclysm.
heroic was
Yeah,
the way in
it's true.
Wrath and Kata is you had normal and heroic difficulties, and you had 10 men and 25 men.
Yeah,
So for a little while there in Wrath, I think there was 10 and 25 men. They had separate lockouts. I think
yeah.
eventually they nerfed that.
So if you were
They
doing,
changed it.
if you're doing the Twilight one where you're fighting the big ugly two-headed
Yeah,
ogre
Jogoth or whatever.
Cho'Gath, if you did it on the hard mode, 25 man, then you actually broke through the floor and fought Sinestra, which was kind of like part two of the fight, which was really cool. So yeah, so that was pretty cool. Actually, I guess that was normal and heroic. Like you could actually, so
Yeah.
that was cool.
They were starting to add in sneaky little things. Personally, I like the 10 mans. The smaller the raid size, I honestly think is better and more healthy for MMOs. The reason why is that you can just, like I said, if you have friends and you decide you want to go play a game, you have majority of the raid group just with having a few friends. I think that's a healthy place to be in MMOs because that allows you to jump into the content relatively easily. And what that does is also the smaller raid size means more groups or technically communities are now interacting with the content, and then they're interacting with each other, right? So with that, it just causes more interactions. More interactions equals more fun, in my opinion. So therefore, you have more successful game. I think that's why Wrath of Lich King had the biggest boom is because they had 10 man. So a lot of 10 man raids were running. You saw it all the time. 10 man raid, recruiting for a 10 man raid, and then every so often we have really big guilds. Say we do 10 and 25 man raids. So like you had different communities for different things, and having the 10 man that didn't really hinder your ability to do the content. So I actually didn't even think about that because we did 10 man. So I don't know if there was extra phases the bosses at 25 man. We never got to experience that. So I think that would actually be a con is that they started to cater to a bigger raid size a little bit because we know going forward they're going to change the raid size. They're going to start going back up, and that's where things start to I think scale and start to go back against all of the pros that we've been having. You've seen the popularity grow all the way up until Wrath, and then starts to decline in Cataclysm because they're starting to cater to solo players, and they're starting to break down some of these communities. So they're starting to nerf content for the first time. Like never have we had them nerf content to push people through bosses. I gotta say maybe in Wrath a little bit. They nerfed Lich King quite a few times because people were not killing him. But I think he was just really hard, right? So there's a difference between being really hard and then. And honestly, in my honest opinion, I think they should never nerf a boss. They should have it, release it, and that's it. and I don't think people should expect to clear all the content. And I think that's how it should sit. So if you're a 3 out of 4 mythic or 3 out of 10 mythic guild, but getting 3 bosses down is hard, that gives you clout, right? Versus a guild who can clear 1 out of 10, or a guild that can't even step in the mythic. I think it gives you more clout. And then a guild who actually clears it all gets a lot of clout, and he should. So that's just my opinion on raid difficulty. But with Cataclysm, we have these horrible cons because I want to make sure it's listed here because I think this is important. We have looking for raid. They're catering the solo player aspects by nerfing content, and they're also starting to diminish communities through the nerfs they made to their their guild leveling system. So the system's continually starting to degrade, and we're starting to get more catering to solo players than for the actual community to interact, which is not fun. Sometimes there's stuff you have to do that is fun. It's not quite what you want to do, but you have to do, and those things a lot of times are what bring success. And unfortunately, Cataclysm really highlights that with looking for raid. So um, I guess we're going into Mist of Pandaria. So my experience is going to be rather shallow with this experience with this expansion because I did quit Cataclysm. I came back for Mist because Blizzard sent me an email and said, "Hey, we gave you Mist Pandaria. Please come back." So I came back and I had a good time, and it was cool to level up through the areas. I remember the leveling was kind of cool. I got into my what was it? I had a little farmland. I think I remember I had a little farm. That was kind of cool. It was interesting. Hate pandas, so that didn't do much for me. That was really it. I honestly, it did not grasp me. The raids I know were kind of okay. Like there were pretty cool raids from what I heard. I think I checked them out online. I did not go ahead and participate. Uh, they were all right. They were like it was a fun little raids and stuff. Like the raids continue to get better. I feel like throughout World of Warcraft history, it's just everything else tends to fall apart. Do we get mythic difficulty in Pandaria?
Yeah, the Siege of Orgrimmar is the last raid, and that's when, yeah. So I was trying to give that to Cataclysm, but no, that's clearly a Mr. Pandaria thing.
Well, do you want to give us your complaint? You actually played Mist, right?
Yeah. So Mr. Pandaria is another 5 level deal. So you basically could not do all of the lore or all of the quests in those 5 levels. There's just no way. And again, it's such a min-max culture that did you really go back and read through all the quests? No, you're trying to gear up. You're doing heroics. So just the culture, if you have the 10 levels, you actually can kind of immerse yourself a little bit more. So it was just kind of like, hey, quick, get to raiding. Again, they're doing some cool things with like phasing zones and unlocking a zone, and you unlock the gate to go into what's that center zone called, the screen and all the trees and stuff. I forget, but that's where all like the final cities are. And so basically, you also get um, instead of just finding legendary, now we're gonna give you a legendary from doing this quest. You can get a legendary cape, which doesn't feel very legendary if everybody seems to have it. And it almost becomes like if you want to raid, you better do your quest cape line. So because you have to have your legendary cape. So it's another to-do list. So we're starting to get these. Okay, you have to do all your dailies. Now you have to do you got to do your buffing. Now you have to do all these things for your cape. And then so there's just I don't understand the need to like okay, and every expansion seems to keep doing this. Um, oh, you have your Heart of Azeroth. So we're going to get to the current ones, excuse me. But so you had to do your cape stuff, and now you're doing your daily. So you're just keep doing all this stuff. It's busy work, but you had to do it if you wanted to raid. And so, but the raids were cool. Elegon, that was challenging when you were gearing up. That was pretty cool. I did get that mount, so I was like, "What up, Elegon?" And there are some challenging dungeon mechanics and raid mechanics there, and it's kind of fun to see people go back and looking for when they do the time walking and they don't know some of the panda dungeons. They're like, "What's going on?" It's like yeah, you don't really okay. You have to you went insane. Go ahead and press the button. Yeah, okay, you're good to go. But yeah, so there is some definitely they keep coming up with new things, right? but it's a lot of it is a lot of the old things that are just being recycled, and I don't really feel that. Panda was beautiful. There was a really kind of cool storyline and lore for the pandas where it's like, okay, we're bringing in our pride, or we're bringing in these baths of war, which is causing the land to be afflicted by this these shahs, or this like the dark emotions are manifesting themselves in person. And so there is kind of, and so it kind of like, hey, Horde and Alliance, you're screwing with our land, like, can you just leave, please? You're like, and then you kind of start to see, this is something that drives me crazy. You kind of start to see the beginning of, let's make the Horde champion, the Horde war leader, the actual enemy of like the big bad guy. Because in Siege of Orgrimmar, you see what's his name? The it starts with a G. Blah 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 blah. War Chief, who's the bad guy.
Garrosh.
Garrosh, Hellscream. Thank you. Garrosh to be the big bad guy. Surprise at the end. Which, by the way, he was a prick and a jerk that no one liked anyway.
I know what
And
you're talking about. He's my
okay,
true war chief.
yeah. Well, like he was a, especially that expansion. You saw it. Like you started to like dislike him more and more, and
Don't
you're
like
like,
him.
yeah, you didn't play the whole thing, so you don't know. But like so then I mean, so we're gonna get it's this and this is gonna be recycled over. Let's just make the Horde war chief the big bad guy. Like this is gonna get recycled, and gets very annoying very quickly. So at any rate, so there's I guess the positives. Um, yeah, there's cool raids, beautiful, cool stories, some different things. You get a new class, a monk, so you get another type of healer, you get another type of tank, you get another type of DPS. So that's interesting. And when was the last time they introduced a new healer class? Right, it doesn't really happen very frequently. So seeing a new type of, it was kind of cool. Just seeing monks come about, and they can do a little bit of everything. So that was neat. Um, Trying to think. I think that's it. Honestly, um, I hated the bug areas. There's the raids were hard. Um, well,
I mean, Garrosh did nothing wrong. Let's just settle that there, okay? Garrosh did nothing wrong.
Thrall is
Garrosh,
the true war chief. Long live
Thrall
Thrall.
cheated in the Mokra. So, wow, Thrall, wow.
No, Thrall is the bee's knees. We love
Yeah.
Thrall.
So yeah, I feel like Mesmerdero was definitely the expansion after Cataclysm. It was just, things were not going well. Population was beginning to start to drop. Um, I'm assuming there were some things in there were anti-community. I couldn't tell you exactly what they are, but things continue. Right, we have Group Finder continue to take over, Raid Finder taking over. We finally get a new difficulty, right, which now feels like we need one because of looking for raid.
Yeah.
So now we need a new raid difficulty because looking for raid is kind of messing with the balance of everything. It's too easy to gear up now. Things aren't working out. Looking for raid starting to take its role and starting to mess the whole meta. And min-max culture is taking over, which is causing, like I said, everything just to get completely snowballed. So I'm assuming they started nerfing bosses at that area too. Um, the new meta is starting to get in the place of nerfing bosses, pushing people through content, and so on and so on, giving legendaries that are basically just a long quest chain that you just eventually get the legendary. Right, legendaries aren't really legendaries anymore. So with that being said, we're now moving to Warlords of Draenor, which I was pumped for Draenor for some reason, probably because of Hellscream and all those other cool badass orcs, and they sound these little snippet, little trailers of each kind of
Okay.
orc leader,
Let's be
very
honest.
promoted.
It was kind of billed as, hey, this is going to be the Burning Crusade, but before it was wrecked. So everyone was kind of stoked to like, oh my gosh, this is going to be the Burning Crusade. Burning Crusade was so popular, so cool, so amazing. And then it's like Burning Crusade 2.0. Yeah, that's the expectation going into it.
Well, I came in and we played, we got up, got to our garrison, and I was just so disappointed. Um, the story was cool. I liked the leveling up process. I think it's still one of the most played expansions for leveling up is Warlords Draenor. It's fast, it's fun, it's simple. Um, but I have to say the raids are cool too. I think the raids I experienced a couple of the raids, not at a high level. I just wanted to double dabble. I was playing another game and playing at a very high level, so I came back to double dabble every once in a while. The garrison to me was just wow, anti community. I would log in every day, chill my garrison the whole time. And hindsight, so when I was playing, I didn't really notice this, but hindsight, looking back, you realize you never left your garrison. You were always there. You mined, you herbed, you did little missions. You never left. You group finder, and then you would pop right back into your garrison. You would never see anybody. Like it was like no interaction was going on. I was thinking about coming back for Draenor, and I remember being a little disappointed, and I decided, you know what? Another MMO I was playing at the time was just I felt it was just better, so I just stuck with that. I definitely played Draenor off and on, but it was not like the experience of vanilla all the way through Cataclysm. I definitely was not playing raiding or PvPing at a high level. I was just playing the garrison machine and group finder and looking for raid every once in a while and join somebody's pogue normal. I think it was maybe a heroic. I don't remember what difficulty it was, but some of the raid mechanics are pretty cool. There's a lot of weird mounts that were just giving out to people for weird stuff. It just I don't know. It definitely felt off to me. Like I said, questing got better. Community seems to continue to be lapsing due to the group finder and also looking for raids. So the community is deteriorating, is what I would say is the whole aspect of Warlords Dreamer is that we are starting to get to the the knee deep, waist deep of anti community, and it's starting to feel that. And then there was a huge content drought because Warlords Dreamer was not successful, and I think what the developer decided to do is just let's cut our losses and focus on the next expansion. And so there's a huge content drop that just killed even more players of the player base. So everything just kind of starting to spiral out of control here at Warlords of Draenor. Um, what do you think, Rick? What did I miss anything?
Oh,
Anything you want to add to
at
that?
at the end of Warlord of Draenor, they literally were like, "Well, we're not going to finish this game, like the expansion." That was literally what they did. So Warlords of Draenor is actually an incomplete expansion, which was a complete bummer. So if you look at like the little charts of like, hey, the player base, it's literally, woo. It's we were literally just like, okay, doing Hellfire Citadel, like or the Hellfire, whatever that was called. I mean, it was just it was just incomplete. It was just there's nothing. It'd be kind of like saying, okay, we're gonna have next. Ah, you never mind, guys. It's like, wait, what? It would be as if in Shadowlands, you know what? We realized Castle Northaria was in December, and that was a really long time ago, November, December. Uh, we're not going to do any more raids. That's literally what happened in Draenor. It was terrible. We also get another free legendary. Well, not free. You have to do all the quests. You get a ring. Put a ring on it, right? So single ladies, right? But honestly, I mean, at the time you're excited because I have a legendary. Oh, but it takes a specialness of way of having a legendary. And again, it takes away we earned a legendary to I have a legendary. So you're becoming more and more isolated. I think garrisons, and I got my garrison, and at the time I took a lot of pride in it, and there's little Halloween things you can do to decorate it, and lots of busy work. You're working on your garrison, you're promoting it, you're upgrading it, but you're alone. And I don't know if you all. This is something we haven't even got into. Driving me bananas. The complete dismantling of the trades. Like, so this is the climax. Like, if you are a miner or an herbalist, okay, well there goes your profession because now instead of going out into the world and earning gold and like you're like spending hours earning your herbs, you're gonna put it on the auction house. Oh no, I'm just gonna go herb for free. I'll just wait for tomorrow. I'll get some more free herbs. That's you're. I don't understand the logic of hey, we're gonna go ahead and all these trades that we had built into the game, they're not really important anymore. Oh, this community, yeah, that's not really important anymore. So you're really seeing this direction of just kind of again, almost this philosophy of just dismantle what's happened in the past, and let's just go ahead and forget about it. So I really am struggling with that. So even down to trades, past lands. So the current expansion. So it's just kind of a, oh, well, whatever. That's such a bad precedent, and it seems like that keeps happening. It's just, oh, well. I don't, that's what they did. So, oh, and then some players hated the amount of work it took to get to flying in Draenor. Like, they literally quit the game for it because it took forever. It's like, okay, let's come up with these 75 different steps for you to start flying. So, and see, some players, again, I had buddies who like they just were so pissed because they listen, put a gold amount on it, make it 100,000. You know what? I'll work hard, I'll get 100,000 and I'll buy it. But for you literally to like make it so hard for me to fly, like I got flying, it was so much work to fly, and it was, I mean, you could live without it, but it was, I mean, you they got us so addicted to flying, which honestly, the solution should have just been honestly, that was probably a mistake. We probably shouldn't have flown. Um, I think I think Tarnish is right about that. Flying. So, but then to make it so difficult, um, Burning Crusade, having flying being 5,000, that is literally a fortune of your gold. Like that was so much gold to have to pay. Like you were rich. People were like, a lot of people almost went through the whole expansion without flying, and they're like, "Oh yeah, dude, it's expensive. I understand. That's a lot of gold." I mean, like that was that was just like, oh well. Like, and sometimes people would do drives to their main tank and get a, hey, can anyone donate? We're trying to get our tank to like fly, or like, I mean, that's what it took. I mean, it was crazy. So, but yeah, to lock the flying behind such an awful quest line was rough. Um, so anything good about Draenor? I'm trying to think. The promise of the Burning Crusade. I mean, it was cool to see um, what the land looked like before, but we start to also see this dependence and reliance on Chromie. I mean, it seems like we're just. Why is this character? Why do they keep going back to this little dragon who looks like a gnome? Um, it's like I think that's their go-to. Like Chromie is gonna like can she just go away? Like I don't understand like why like it's the same dang storyline. It's just we keep seeing okay, Caverns of Time. Okay, now we're gonna now it's like a whole expansion and now it's like I don't know. Like so there's just a lot of things that they I think Blizzard gets really stuck. But garrisons are another busy work thing. We get another free legend. There's just a lot I don't like about Draenor. But yeah, it's there's a lot I don't like.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, that's where we were kind of waist deep in. Okay, these things are unfolding horribly. Combined with World of Warcraft realizing, well, we are really crapping the bed here. What can we do to fix it? So they invested all their time in the next expansion, which was Legion. I came back for Legion. Legion, I think overall was a good expansion. I would say it is up there with some of the greats, but it had some severe issues, and the issues that we've been talking about this whole time that have been steamrolling didn't go away. So I guess some of the pros, I guess let's get right into it. Mythic Plus was came in Legion, and Mythic Plus was a huge hit. I was an early Mythic Pluser, got really, really high rated when no one understood why you would even want to do that. And I don't know, something about killing those dungeons at a high level was really fun to me, and so I did it. So I got some of the first really high keys done. It was really fun. Play with people I never played before. learn to socialize. And again, it gave a little bit of that community that we kind of lost when you needed to find people, because so few people are actually doing this at high levels. It was like, hey, we're this niche little group that wants to do this for no good reason. So we did it. And so people were being nice to each other because they needed to. Once you got to a certain point, like you doing some high dungeons, you needed to have some kind of respect because you want to lose these people who were good enough to down these high dungeons and had the experience, which so few people had. So we had a lot of fun with that. Mythic Plus was, I think, overall a good thing for the game. That was a really genius thing to do. It's 5-man content, so we're going from, I think we've got to mention the raid size went up to 20. I think it was missing Padaria. So we went from 10 mans and 25 mans to 20 mans. So they kind of smash it. There's no longer the option. You just have 20 mans. 20 man mythic difficulty. And then I think they switched, I think in Legion, or maybe it was before Legion, to a heroic flex raid, right? And normal flex raid. So the raids now flex to whatever your ratios are in normal and heroic, and then you have mythic where it's a set 20, which I think flexing was the future. I think that they had done that correctly, that would have been the future. Unfortunately, they didn't balance it right. Max Culture was able to figure out what percentages, which player base give you the biggest advantage. People were exploiting it, and ultimately, normal heroic raids both became pretty trivial, and then mythic became really the only hard difficulty. And then with Legion, we countered some of the hardest bosses and difficulty we had ever seen. We had quite a few of some of the hardest ever in Legion. Very, very difficult bosses. Some that were just RNG, wipe the whole raid. Very crazy, fun raid encounters. Um, I have to say the rating was at a very high level. I liked it. I loved Legion. They were nerfing it though, so we have the whole nerfing and pushing people through content. Again, to me, that degrades your raid content if you have to nerf it. So don't nerf it. If you have to nerf it, maybe after the first top percentile, kill it. Then maybe nerf it a little bit, and then don't touch it anymore. But even then, what you're doing is you're every time you nerf it after someone clears that content, you're taking away from the achievement of clearing the content. So you don't want to do that. Very bad for PvEers. I want to say what else? Legion. We had legendaries. These was a huge thing. We also had artifact weapons. So the legendaries, when the first came out, this is what put a lot of a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth. Was when you first created a character, whenever you got to max level, you got 3 legendaries, and then you're basically tapped out for the whole expansion. And they're completely RNG, and then they're spec dependent. So if you play multiple specs, and you accidentally got a legendary because you opened a box or something, now you have a prot legendary and you're a DPS, like you just ruined one of your 3 chances. So that kind of ruined it for a lot of people. And then even then, there were some people like me, for example. I was a top world holy paladin in Legion, and I did not have my best legendary through all of my top parses. I did not have my best legendary, so I was able to do it. So I guess it's showing that it is possible. But if you saw how hard it worked, it was definitely not worth it. So it was kind of bad. This is the first time you're seeing top world raiders getting replaced because they didn't get the correct legendary. This is also the first time you're seeing people level 4 or 5 times the same class, so they get the right legendaries. Eventually, like I said, they do change this, and then towards the end there, they actually added a vendor. That's something I wish they had just put in from the start, because we could have picked it. But then again, we're also degrading legendaries with this, right? So legendaries are no longer this special. I got a legendary. Although we did go every time we got legendary, but then we were wondering, am I going to get a good one or am I getting a bad one? Rolling the lottery here, right? So, like I said, I have mixed feelings about a lot of things. The artifact power was introduced, so we had to grind this artifact power. The grind was not fun. The chores just got worse. So you now have dailies and you have artifact power, and holy cow, artifact power is way worse. So instead of dailies, well, I guess they're still dailies, but they're world quests. So we have world quests we have to go do. They're basically daily quests, and there's so many chores now in the game that you're running around constantly. And in hindsight, I had a really cool community, right? I was a guild master in my own guild, and I forced old school methods on my guild, so it didn't really affect us as much as it would have been other guilds. But it still was. bad, right? We spent hours grinding artifact power. That's insane. I remember coming home from work, running into my computer, and trying to get as many dungeons as I could farmed as possible to get more artifact power. Like that is a horrible experience. But we suffered together as a community, so it kind of became a bonding for us. But it's still not good for the game. So artifact power, con, artifact weapons. I actually liked investing into my artifact weapon. It kind of grew your power. It was almost like an extension of talent points. I think talent points that we actually missed there, Rick, is the breakdown of talents and how they changed over the expansion. So yeah, we kind of missed that. So I think Cataclysm they kind of minimized the talent structure. We used to have these point structure where we went through and we had to put every time you leveled, you got a point. With Kata, it became like I think it was like every 3 or 4 levels. I don't know how many, but
I
you'd
think
get
it's
them at certain
like
points.
5 or I think it's like was it level 10 or 15 and then but basically you had a choice between three talents that you had to choose and so yeah, it was pretty crappy.
Basically, the talents went from being very large,
And
lots of points,
customizable, you can kind of choose what you
hybrid
want to. Yeah.
builds were possible, and then went from that to very simple, less points, not feeling your power increase every level, but every few levels, and then we went to Legion, they kind of had this artifact weapon, which kind of added to your character, right? So, which ultimately, I wish there was more of like a choice. You had more choice in the artifact weapon. If they actually made more like the talent trees, I think it would have been a little bit cooler because with the artifact weapon, you were just trying to fill up the artifact weapon as quickly as you could. So eventually, we fill up the weapon and you have everything. But for the first little while, you're going for this trait and then that trait. So the powers were all over the place until everyone got their full potential out there. The artifact weapons, I say, ultimately, I didn't hate them. I thought they were cool. I was a paladin, so I had Ashbringer and I had a huge badass hammer that I got. One of the pros I have to say is the Mage Tower challenge. Bless you. The Mage Tower was
Thank you.
pretty sweet. Um, I think that was probably one of my favorite parts of the expansion was the Mage Tower. So I got my hammer, I think it was like week 2, and I'd say that was pretty impressive for my paladin, right? Week 2. It was like 2 or 3. I remember I got someone there. I was in the top 10 on my server, and I was on the biggest PvE server, so it was a pretty big deal. Um, but those weapons, those skins, really meant something because they're very hard. They did not nerf those encounters until, well, they kind of scale with gear, right? So the more gear you got, you can just go eventually go in there and just get it. But for the first few weeks, like those challenges were very, very hard. So if you got those, it really meant something. So because I had that hammer, I think it was like some of the top guilds in the world were trying to poach me from my own guild. Say, hey, dude, like you got that hammer? That is impressive at your item level. Come on over. And I was like, ah, man, damn, I don't know. I'm already hardcore enough. I don't know if I can go that hardcore. So, uh, it was very cool. I like the Mage Tower. The Mage Tower was probably the best part of Legion combined with Mythic Plus. And then the raid encounters, like the raid continue to get better, guys. Raiding and World of Warcraft go hand in hand. It seems like the raids just keep getting better. Well, I guess maybe not because Shadowlands I think kind of dipped, but I have to say, ultimately the raid encounters are getting very difficult and they're continue to get better with every expansion so far. Um, Group Finder, looking for raid particularly. Uh, what they added in, and I'm not sure this came from Draenor or not, but for Legion, this is my first experience of seeing this is Titan Forging. um, Titan Forging is, I don't know who the hell thought of that, but my God, like I don't know like why you thought that was a good idea. Your items had a chance of just upgrading and becoming really powerful. So now you're seeing raiders go back to looking for raid again to hope for a Titan Forge. You're now seeing for the first time players who never stepped into a mythic raid have gear just as strong, if not stronger, than mythic raiders who bust their ass to get the gear. And not to mention down some seriously hard content. So The only pro to doing mythic content at this point is to experience the content and the transmog, but then they go ahead and they will nerf the content, and then you're seeing everyone go through the old content, the next raid tier, and getting the transmog that you earned. So therefore, and the titles you earned, there's almost nothing exclusive to raiding other than the fact of experiencing the content, which for some of us was enough, but you'll start to see going forward that people are falling off the wagon relatively quickly. So we have the continue uh, degradation of the community, and one of the biggest things communities tackle is raids. So with the raids starting to deteriorate the reason to do so, you're starting to see the community suffer even more. So I don't want to keep talking. I don't take up all this time, but Rick, if you want to go ahead and hit Legion, there's so much to go over with Legion. I'm sure you have plenty to talk about.
I remember getting my first legendary in Legion, and you see like this orange, like in this like dragon banner, like go around, and you're like, oh, this orange. I'm like, oh, again, that excitement, so exciting. And then I think I don't know if it announced it to the guild or you had a link to guild. I can't remember. But I remember being so excited. I didn't even really look at which one I got. I just was like, I was so excited. And the guild apologized. They're like, oh. And because they knew I got Nargonon's Foresight, which is this pair of boots that wasn't exclusive to priests. It was pretty much all casters. And the whole legendary was that if you walk, it doesn't cancel the cast. Which sounds like, oh, that's great. You can walk and heal, you can have mobility. The problem is as a healer, there's times when you want to cancel your cast. So I'll heal, cancel my cast, because if the tank is like full, I'm just like spamming my healing and then moving if the heal is like not going to go through. So that's something, it's like stutter stepping or jumping or just canceling the cast, that you can't do anymore. So I had this really bad legendary. The dream legendary was this cloak, which when you die, like you go into your angel form and you can keep healing, and then you come back, and so you could drink a mana pot before you died, and then you die, you come back, and then you can drink a mana pot again, so you have all of this source of mana, and there I am with my Nargonon's Foresight. Uh, it was so bad. So it was a slot machine for legendaries, and you only get three. I knew somebody. He was top of the world, one of the most incredible priests I had ever seen. He rolled three priests to get the legendary he wanted. Like you're gonna like have three priests. I mean that's a terrible. Now eventually they fix this and they get but that was terrible. Like that was like I literally he again he is so good and he was on all these top rate teams. He couldn't get a rate stock because he didn't have the right legendaries. Because we're such a min max culture that no we're just gonna take somebody who does have it and blah, blah. It's so. The other thing that really drives me crazy, I do like I think the keys are cool. That's something you can do with friends. What I don't like is Raider IO. And Raider IO is going to be like, okay, well, let's see your score on all your mythic keys, and let's see how good you are. Oh, your score's not high enough. We don't want you. Oh, and so there's this another tool for elitists to be an elitist about. And I'll tell you what, I may not have a time for this one, but if you looked at my other times, they were really good. But I got excluded from doing content because I didn't have the right number of score. In that first week, I didn't have enough time to do everything. So week 2, now I'm going to be excluded because, and and it's like, well, we'll give you a chance. We'll do your key. Oh, you did a really good job. Wow, I am surprised. I'm like, I've been a freaking priest since Burning Crusade. I know how to play a priest. Like, I can heal. It's a freaking 5-man. I can heal a 5-man. Um, but Raider IO, big con. It still exists. People still like will not accept you because, and so if you're coming back to the game, it's not skill based. It's not merit based. It's like, do you have the score? Which I think is really, really lame. So I think the min-max culture takes over these 5-mans, these keys, which I think that's kind of sucky. Um, it's like, so Blizzard's trying to make this more and more inclusive, right? They want everybody to have access to all the content. We're gonna have looking for raid. You can get all of like this. That was another terrible thing. Just to see, like we had, in fact, Tarnish and I shared a guild. We were in a guild back then. We had somebody come into our raid who had like looking for raid like legendary. It was like better than mythic. It was just it was incredible. And he bragged. I think this was Legion, or was this later Tarnish? He,
Talking about the raider that had the higher gears or gear level than our
yeah,
raiders, and
yeah.
they
And
were just
then,
going up and down.
yes, so then
Oh, jeez.
goes ahead and he admits that he's using the add-on for disabled people because not everyone has 2 arms, and there are some veterans who need some assists. So basically, it's just like you press the but it does your whole rotation for you. Like literally did his whole rotation. So he has no idea how to play his class. And so that's how he's played. So he admits this, and he's so proud that. And then he tries to tell us how to run the guild, and tries to tell us what to do, but he doesn't even know his own class, his own spec. He doesn't know anything. But he has a high Raider IO score because he has all this gear because he got lucky on it. So it's just so there's a lot of things that become important that really weren't important. So instead of community, it's like what's your score? Instead of your reputation, so there's all these things that become important in Legion that really kind of take away from things. Sorry, I forgot to skip the ad there. Um, so it's just kind of really lame what's kind of going on in Legion on those fronts. As far as raiding, yeah, there's some incredible raids. The lore, I think Blizzard does a good job with the lore overall. Kind of going through the zones. Like again, I think you have a lot of things like they build up to the raids. Like so what was that raid that was like literally like you could like fly over it and you were part Gul'dan is like the last boss. What was that raid?
Nighthold.
Thank you. Nighthold, by the way, this guy Tarnish, like he's pretty humble. Nighthold, this guy rocked like that. I mean, pretty much like he okay. So he could have talked about his incredible experience, how he was like literally like this guy. He was like saying he was trying to get recruited. He was already like one of the top guys in Legion. All right, so Nighthold, I think they were like 1 kill away from being like the literal, and like they were like it was so close, but they were so like advanced and so good. But Nighthold, you literally have the whole zone. There's like the story was so good, and then it just all led to this like this city, and I mean the story and the lore was really good. I mean, great storytelling, and there's a bad guy that you love to hate. Like let's be honest. I mean, great bad guy, Gul'dan. No one likes him. Um, and then the Legion again, great enemy. It's the Legion, you know. So um, really like well done on that front. And then what's really cool is at the end of the expansion, you could actually earn. You're going to be able to have the ability to earn those kind of races, which are going to be kind of interesting, which is kind of cool. So there's just again a lot of thought put into like, hey, we want to give you an experience, and I think it was really well done, and I think Blizzard did a great job with Legion. Of course, we're losing more and more of the community. Crafting is basically worthless at this point. I like what's the point of crafting? There's just so many things. The old world again. There's really no reason to do it other than it's just the focus on what's current. It would be really neat to see more thought, not just put into, hey, this is going to be the story. Let's make a full game that encapsulates everything that we've done. How can we bring in some of Outland? How can we bring in some of Northrend? How can we actually have all these things? Because the world, in like even our world today, right? The world is not, encapsulated. There's not just like, okay, well, this is the only place things are happening, but that tends to be Blizzard's, okay, here is Outland, that's the only place things are happening. All right, Northrend, Pandaria, and there's really nothing going else in the world. So it would be neat to see like, okay, well, this zone and this is going on, and now this is affecting, and so now they're importing some void energy from where Cho'Gall was, and so like you start bringing in these things, and you're actually using the world. That would be refreshing. That would be different. But again, there's just this dismissing of what's happened in the past, and there's no pertinence, there's no importance, and it's only what's going on. Artifact power, holy crud! Talk about busy work, horrible. And this is something, and at the time you're just kind of doing it because you have to do it, but after a while it's just like, oh my gosh. And then they do these catch up mechanics, and which then you're like, well, why was I even doing this? This guy like almost caught up to me, and so, which again, people are coming back, and there's no way they could come back. So they make it so they can come back really. They get really close to you, and you're like, okay, well. And so again, this inclusiveness. I understand wanting to be inclusive for people, but then I feel like I could have just come back and I could have just done that instead of me grinding the last 6 months, and then like, geez, almost where I am. I'm like, okay, well, so there's really not any reason for me to do all the hard work that I put into it. So uh, I agree, Mage Tower is really cool. I did get my bear one, my werebear. That was pretty cool. That was awesome. Um, had a druid at 90, and so then I was like, oh, let's go ahead and I'm gonna like bring him up because I want to get him to get that werebear form in Legion at 100. So that was pretty awesome. But yeah, so there was some definitely some cool things that they did, some great challenges, some like healing challenges, like healing modes. I think that actually was in Pandaria where you can actually like they have like where you can actually heal. That's something good for Pandaria. You have basically like this healing thing where you just have more and more things coming. You have to heal your party, and that was pretty cool. There was DPS ones like little challenge modes. So challenge modes was good for Pandaria. But yeah, so there was definitely lots of good things in Legion. Not perfect though, but it was definitely lots of good things. But again, the min max culture is kind of getting out of hand in Legion, especially with Raider IO. I think that is still influencing the game in a negative way.
Yeah, I've been on both sides of Ragnaros. Obviously, when I started off in Legion, I was high already because I had accomplished things that people no one had any reason to want to do it. So when I had a niche little group, like we got a high score, so I didn't have to worry about that as much. Not to mention I was also a healer. Going into future expansions where no one knows that or no one cares to look at that, and having a low score because like I said, I took the easy week off. Oh my gosh, it was it was kind of bad. Like I remember getting mad. Like, do you know who I am? Like you just declined me. Like so I was like, it was a new experience for me. And it didn't feel good. I'm not gonna lie. Getting declined from a group and then going into and the worst part is so they take you right, and then you realize that you're like leagues ahead of these guys, but then they were curious they should even take you. Like it's just like it, it's not a true indicator of skill, and that's the issue with it. And then on top of that, even if it was, there's before Raider IO there was gear score, and before that there's always some kind of add-on trying to measure strength or skill, and it's never accurate, right? It's never accurate. So then you have these people with high IO scores, but then they suck. And it's like, how do you get this score? I have no idea. And then you have people who have low IO scores and they're freaking badasses because they used to raid the last 6 expansions and they're used to this, or or they really are good at not getting hit by mechanics. So like they're just really good at Mythic Plus because it's basically about not making mistakes. So there's so much to Mythic Plus and Raider IO. I think it's Raider IO is probably something that if you're a content creator, this is probably really hard for you to judge, right? Because you have this really cool content Mythic Plus, then you have Raider IO, which is kind of ruining it. So you can't. So I guess a lot of content creators are gonna be like, well, I'm just gonna be anti add-on. I'm just gonna not have add-ons. And you would think that that's a good thing, but then it's not, right? Because you have to create a system that's that's good enough to not require an add-on because people are going to use add-ons no matter what. So now this question is, how do you solve that problem? Having good content, but it's being tarnished by an add-on. How do you solve that problem? I don't really know. It's been plaguing World of Warcraft for a long time. I never cared much about gear score. Gear score, that one I feel like was a little more arguable. Raider O is hard because so many players look at that score and that's just like that's you. That's your reputation is your Raider O. So if you're not climbing and doing what you need to do to climb those scores, it can be hard. And yeah, I mean I've done the grind and it's not fun. It's literally a grind and you're doing things you
and
don't want to do.
and
You
it's
know.
not, again, there you're losing the social aspect. So instead of talking to people, saying, "Hey, so what's your experience?" Basically, you're putting in queue, and you're like, and all they're doing is they're looking at the score. So you're like on this list, and they're deciding based on the score. Like, so there's just no interaction. So then if you and so you're like, wow, I can't find a group, and I'm like, really? And as a healer, honestly, I probably get into more groups than I can't imagine being a DPS with a. Sometimes as a healer, I get lucky to kind of come in, and I'm like, I'm lucky to get like okay, and usually they're like, wow, that was like you did a really good job, and I'm like, mm, yes, I know, but it's like. It's very insulting. Like, wow, you actually can, you actually healed. Wow, and I'm like,
I
okay,
guess
so,
we could say
oh,
that the add-on's actually hurting the community, right? So the community aspect is falling on that,
yeah.
faltering on that. So we have a really good thing is supposed to bring the community together, but then the Raider I was breaking the community back up. So now there's like tiers and associations, and now you need to know somebody. It kind of is kind of ruining the whole aspect of what Mythic Plus should have been. Honestly, in the beginning, I had so much fun before Raider O was a thing, and we were just a niche group that was just wanting to down content, and they asked me if I could shock it in, and I was like, I can definitely shock it in. They're like, cool, because we basically need you at DPS as much as you can on this boss, otherwise there's no way we can kill it. And I was like, all right, let's do it. And it took us a couple weeks. We finally got the kill, and we didn't chest it, although we were very close. Man, we were so close. Still think about that to this day. So like I said, that's a good thing, right? If you're thinking about something, you're like, man, we were so close, and then it's you know, like getting that chest would have made us like top of the world kind of reputation. Um, and then yeah, so I said the raids are good. Legendary system was broken. It got fixed later on. It got a little bit better, but still, some people were screwed the entire expansion. I was one of them. I was using subpar legendaries all the way up until the very end. At the end of the expansion, I got my best legendary. I literally went in order of worst legendaries all the way up until the good ones, and uh, I mean, I made it work. But let me tell you, it was that was way too much work. The grind AP. So the community is becoming more the game's becoming more grindy. The raid content's still there. The rewards for doing the raid content are not there anymore, and the community is becoming more toxic due to add-ons and other forms of game. So the community is becoming more toxic, more isolated, and catering to solo play, and then the rewards aren't really there. So that's what I took away from Legion. Um, yeah, artifact weapons are kind of cool. A couple of meaningful rewards through the Mage Tower. So I guess challenges would be a good thing to take forward. Definitely want to have some kind of something you can challenge yourself on and have fun with. Um, so yeah, that was cool. Then we're going into BFA, which I think is one of the worst expansions I've ever experienced. I never quit an expansion that quick. Well, no, I guess I got quit Legion play or Shadowlands a little bit quicker, but it was pretty bad, right? I remember us going into BFA thinking, all right, I'm gonna take this badass team that I built up and let's go into BFA and just squash this stuff. And I saw the Lions versus Horde. I'm like, yes, like smash some people, dude. And like this is what I've been waiting for. I want to be a little more PvP oriented and BFA. And man, did I walk in and it was just like, what is this? So I'm gonna partially put this on some of the streaming community and YouTube community. You all fucking asked Blizzard. You said just release BFA, just release it. We're ready for it. Because the hype was real with that, and that's cinematic that you guys released, and everybody wanted to play so bad. You guys released that expansion, it was not ready. That was not Battle for Azeroth. That was beta for Azeroth. I agree with that statement 1000%. That was horrible. I don't think they could have made more mistakes. They made so many mistakes. So taking a little bit of my experience from Legion, carry over the BFA. So the raid was broken. The first raid of the expansion was broken. We had to bench mythic level raiders to get stupid comps so we can kill bosses. We were ranked top, I think, US top world, I think, for having heroic kills, which is weird. We had to go full immunity build to kill Fetid Devourer on heroic difficulty. And when I found out that we were some of the few people that downed it, I was very surprised. It was a very buggy, broken raid that we walked into. Um, they took Master Looter away and they took away tier sets. So as a raid leader, you basically took away, and that in the high up guilds, they were able to, they don't, it doesn't hurt them as much because they can do 20 split raids and they have the time to do it. I don't, right? We were a casual competitive guild. We don't have that kind of time. So you took away my full ability to control my guild and its systems. So you took away how I run my guild. You took that power away from me as a guild master. So I no longer could run the guild how I felt I should run it. And you instead put your own policy in and said, this is how you're going to run your guild. And I had no say in it. This is ultimately the death of MMO community, is when the leader now has no control over his own community. There's so many things that were linked to loot, attendance, um, performance, all these things now don't matter because I can't control if they get that piece of loot or not. Unless I go really extreme with it, which means, hey, you have to do what I say, so give that piece of gear to somebody else, or I'm gonna kick you from the guild. That's a very extreme notion. So you've now forced leaders to either be more extreme or to not give a shit. And they're definitely going the more I don't give a shit route because that's just more realistic. Um, so from a guild leader, I couldn't have been more upset going to the BFA that they took away Master Looter. And then thankfully I think they got rid of Titan Forging. Wow, I don't know how that even got in the game. And then you have no more tier sets. So that's the gearing process was way weirder. So instead of tier sets, we had almost like Azerite traits. Well, we had Azerite traits, but they were like kind of similar to the artifact weapon, but smaller based. And their whole goal was to build how you felt like you should build. But they didn't really work that way. What happens? We're min max culture by this point. We're going to figure out what's the best and we're going to use what's the best. So it didn't work out that way. Instead of building however you felt like or to your playstyle, you followed the meta and you played the meta. So it was very strange. So communities broke, a lot of them did. I ultimately decided to quit because when raiding wasn't going so hot, the raid was super broken, caused a lot of frustration in the raiding community because people were using funky comps to kill bosses and benching people for one boss, pulling them in for the next boss. No one likes getting benched, and for especially when it's not a performance issue, it's just that your class cannot do this, so we can't bring you. That was just a very very bad balance for the raid. So and then you had Mythic Plus, right? So we all was like, oh well, let me become Mythic Plus guild since rating's so jacked up, right? So again, I was very high rated in Legion with Mythic Plus. I opened my chest for the first time and I get a level 30 key. I think it was like 31 or 32. What am I going to do with that key? Like, we just started the expansion. You have a 30 something key. Like, what am I supposed to do with that? Like, there's no way. Like, that is insane, right? And I remember we were joking about this before opening the chest. Like, oh, what if we got our key from Legion? Ah, that'd be so funny. Ha, ha, ha. We opened our chest and we got our keys. We're like, what is this, right? Long story short, me and a very very elite group of guys cleared, I think it was like a 10 week one. And this took us a very long time. And it took some crazy thinking and maneuvering, and we figured it out. And we were able to clear a 10. We had to lust every boss. We figured it out. I obtained some very high level loot. People looking at me like, who is this guy? He has a level 10 piece on right now. And it was a chess piece. It was my best traits. I was starting to get motivated to play the game. I'm like, yes, my skill has amounted to a really badass reward. I am by far the most geared Holy Paladin on the server, and I'm the number one Mythic Plus Holy Paladin. And I'm highly rated. I'm like, this is motivating. I'm gonna be a Mythic Plus player. And then the next day, they took my chess piece away, and they gave me like a level 3 chess piece. And it wasn't my best in slot chess piece. It was my worst in slot chess piece. And my key was still a 30 key. And that was basically the end of BFA for me. I played a little bit longer. I got really high rated in Mythic Plus, but it wasn't the same. They messed up this expansion around every single corner. And I came back a couple times just to see what the expansion was like. They added corruption. So instead of you playing your character, you're relying on your character to proc something that did absurd amount of damage. And I'm not joking. The corruption system, some of those corruptions, we stacked them, they would be doing 90% of your damage. It, the numbers that they were putting up was insane, and it was nothing to do with skill, nothing to do with your player. So it was almost like Blizzard was trying to make it so that it wasn't about skill anymore. It wasn't about rewards anymore. It wasn't about. It was just come play, and stuff happens, and it didn't make any sense. And it completely is. It killed the community. It killed how the community works. It killed the echelons. It killed rating. It killed everything. So everything failed. And I think population has dropped even farther at this point. I don't even know if there's anything positive I can say about the expansion from my experiences. Everything was negative. Um, I'm trying to think if there's something positive that came from BFA that I didn't experience, but I know happened. Um, Damn, I don't even know. I can't even think of anything. Is there anything positive you can think about BFA, Rick?
Well, the promise of Battle for Azeroth. There's this really amazing thing called Azerite that you're going to have to put into your necklace. And you're going to have to farm this. I'm like, wait a minute. This sounds a lot like artifact power. Okay, I'm like, and then it's like they took every dang mechanic from the past. It's like, what's this one's garrison? Okay, it's like they can every old thing that they did, they brought it back in some way. And I remember when Battle for Azeroth was coming, and Tarnish and I had to talk about this. I'm like, it seems like they're recycling everything. And I remember, and he was like, you're gonna play Battle for Azeroth. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, it seems like they're recycling everything. It says, and they did, and it was absolutely, it was a complete recycle of everything except here, and again, this is okay. The story falls apart in Battle for Azeroth, right? So, Alliance versus Horde, Azerite. Wow, we're fighting for the Azerite. And then somehow there's this cutscene of this ship. The ship's getting sucked in, and now we're fighting Ashara. And forget Battle for Azeroth. Now it's like Ashara and Azoth. It has nothing to do with Battle for Azeroth anymore. It's like, wait a minute, what happened to the expansion? What happened from the fight for Azerite? Like, it was just, I kind of felt like I was like, well, what's the story that we're doing? I had no clue. Like, I still don't have a clue. And by the way, if you guys okay, this is literally a battle for Azeroth, a giant thing that's behind me. Like when I tell you I'm devoted to the game, like I'm free. Okay, and it's kind of embarrassing that it's battle for Azeroth. But what's sad is the game owner, like they're like, listen, we can't sell this game anymore. We have no more need for this display. We know you love World of Warcraft. So the shop was like, here, you can have it. Like I literally got contacted by the manager, and they gave me the display set because they know I love WoW. And they were like, we can't sell this game anymore. You can have this. That's pretty bad. That's really bad. Like that's a yikes. Okay. Um, but hey, I got a really cool backdrop thing. I mean, but it was a rough expansion. The corruption, not skill based at all. You literally are people. You can sell some greens on the auction house to and basically people are rocking greens and blues. Let's not even play your class anymore. Let's just hope for a random proc. That's what the game became. Um, it really. I have no idea how Battle for Azeroth even happened. Um, it's very very sad, and I'm like, I don't know. And just looking at
Yeah,
the list of raids, Uldir. Okay, I remember doing Uldir.
yeah,
Battle for Dazzle Allure. Okay, all right, yeah. All right. So that's fighting for the Zandalari, or like they're coming in. Crucible of Storms. That was a small little raid with like two. I think it was just two little bosses. Eternal Palace, and I didn't even experience the Eternal Palace in Nazoth. I think I eventually went back later on and did it because it was just I couldn't understand. I remember going there and I was trying to figure this out, and pretty much all my friends have quit at this point. And I'm there, and I'm usually the last man standing in WoW. I for some reason, I'm the last guy playing, and I have to play with new people, and it's just for the exception when Tarnish is leading a guild and I'm in his guild, and like he's like rocking. But this is not one that you could even lead. This was like this expansion was so bad. It was like sorry guys, I can't deal. Like what is going on? This is terrible, and it was understandable. And it was like, yeah, this is rough. That was our. It was terrible. Um, Trades worthless. Um, there's there's just I don't know. There's
yeah. The game now is getting very dark.
well,
BFA comes and it's getting dark. People are now talking about World of Warcraft is dying or dead. The population is continuing to hit new record bottoms, and now we're about to head into Shadowlands, which the plot thickens with the lore. We got now another horde leader going rogue. Surprise, surprise.
yeah.
She's evil too. There are no good horde leaders besides Thrall, apparently. And Sourfang, which rest in peace, dude. At least we got Zappy Boy. Um, and now we're rolling into Shadowlands. So I got a little hype for Shadowlands. Um,
Oh, I remember you were really hyped.
I was ready, man. I was ready. I'm like, there's no way they're gonna after BFA. There's no way they're gonna flop this.
I was
There's no way.
skeptical. I was skeptical, and Tars would be I was ragging on everything. I was ragging.
So I was watching it very closely, and right before we were getting close to launching, they started hiccuping a bit, and I was like, shit, this might not be good. I was like, I'm invested. I'm here, and it's gonna launch here soon. And I was like, there's still a lot of good in the game. So Shadowlands introduced covenants and covenant abilities. Everyone right away was like, yo, you got to balance these things. Otherwise, everyone's going to bounce to the same covenants. Um, let's just say they weren't balanced. Their things were very broken and buggy. It started to remind me a lot of BFA's launch. So I would say the first 2 weeks were so much fun. Me and my friends smashed through all the dungeons. We cleared all the mythics. We were some of the most geared people on our server. We were
Mm-hmm.
having a blast. As soon as they
Yeah.
opened up raids, is when we realized, oh no, this feels like BFA, and the game is broken again.
I think we did the mythics on the second or third day after launch, right? Because we literally power leveled, and then we had done mythics, and we had like no gear, but it was fun.
Yeah, doing the mythics with no gear was a lot of fun. I had a blast again with Mythic Plus. Challenged me, I loved it. So mythics, I'm like, heck yeah. So there was a couple of things that kind of came together. First of all, there is a lot of melee classes and not so many range classes at this point. They keep introducing more classes like the Demon Hunter. They have the Death Knight. There's no real range classes. They're all monks. They're all melee. So there's an abundance of melee DPS at this point. Raid comms typically want to be balanced. So the game is a little lopsided. And then Shadowlands became very melee unfriendly. The raids were again a little bugged or overtuned. So I didn't have a raid team this time. So just me and a few friends. So needless to say, we were not able to just run through the raid content like we normally do. So now the experience for a regular player is what I'm getting for the first time. And I'm having to pug. I'm having to do what solo players do. And right away I realized this game is not fun anymore. I'm very isolated. I don't know anybody. Why am I even doing this? Why am I gearing up? Gearing up's hard right now for some strange reason. Shadowlands made it really hard to gear up, which I'm okay with if I can gear up and it feels rewarding, but it doesn't feel rewarding. I just feel like I'm gearing up. I'm gearing up the easiest way possible, which right, they messed up the gearing process. They made PvP gear earnable, but PvE gear not earnable. So you're hoping you get pieces of gear in Mythic Plus, which is very hard to get now. They nerfed it, so gearing up becomes horrible for PvE gear. PvP gear just grinds out and they get their gear. If you want to take over, Rick, I'm gonna cough real quick.
Yeah, so Shadowlands, I think BFA, if they BFA was recycling things, I think Shadowlands really took that to heart because literally we have something with Covenants. We're farming a reputation with them. What I do like about the Covenants, it's pretty alt friendly. If I wanted one to go Revendreth, if I wanted one to go, at least you're experiencing a different something different. And you can have a different look, a different feel to it. I mean, so there's something to be said that the four covenants that you can choose from. It's at least when I'm playing two characters because I do have an alliance and a horde max level currently, and I still play. It's very casual. I still play retail at a very casual level. I mostly play with a friend, and he's trying to help me get my PvP mounts because it's literally I love mounts, and so he's just trying to help me with that. But it's very dead. There's not a lot of people on. Like I don't know where all the people are. Um, it's feels. I mean, so there's not. It doesn't feel like there's a lot of people playing, um, and it's you don't have a friend to play with, like to like buddy up and run along around with. It's just kind of like you are alone. It's very very not welcoming to like, hey, oh, you're a new player. Hey, let me teach you how to play. Hey, come on, join us. It's like, what's your IO score? It's just like you're like, oh, okay, oh, I can't get into a group. Oh, and so then I mean, there are some friendly people who will take, they'll call them like YOLO groups, which are basically they don't really care about IO scores. So which that's very nice. You can just queue up for those, and those are the ones that are usually like, oh wow, dude, like. And so since I leveled up a second character, like my tune that I was doing with Tarnish and our group of friends, like we were doing things really early, so I didn't really even appreciate how well geared and how like we had done until I leveled up the second time and I was part of that second wave of players who get to the top and everyone was elite. I knew the mechanics. Like we had even earned some of the achievements with no gear. Like in that like first second week, like we literally were doing it, but now I am, a fresh, I'm fresh at the top and I'm like, "Hey, I want to come." And it was like, "No." So very this inclusivity that WoW is really trying to promote, it is not there. It's very like very small club. So I really do feel when people say the game is dying, is the game fun? Is the game inclusive? Is the game, and let's be honest, if we take a look at the last time a raid was released, Castle Nartheria, wasn't that November, December? This is the
Yeah,
longest that they have gone without releasing raid content. Some people are like, "Oh, but COVID, COVID." I'm like, "Well, let's look at other games. Elder Scrolls Online, they released something. Let's look at Ashes of Creation. They're still launching their alpha. They're still launching. Let's look at Final Fan. Everyone's launching stuff. Like, what is happening over at Blizzard? Like, there is literally, where's the content? Um,
yeah,
so so there's definitely, it's kind of hard to grade Shadowlands as a whole because it's not a complete expansion. It's like they have one raid and everyone's kind of waiting around. The Covenants I really enjoyed. I had a lot of fun with them. Um, Although there were some that were less fun than others. At first, I thought the Revendreth parties were going to be super fun, and you're more of an errand boy, and
I that was probably one of the biggest letdowns for me. First of all, so just so everyone knows how the parties work, you set up, you plan this party all week, and you do all these. And if you're gonna plan a real party, you get drinks, you get food, you set up guests to come, and then you go play it for like what 10-15 minutes, and if you mess up, there's no redoing it. There's no doing something else or trying to get for a better score or doing it for fun or for cosmetics. No, no, no. You get one shot, and if you mess up, that's it. And so if you don't know how to do anything, you're in there just figuring it out. You're looking at probably about a month of learning before you can actually get good at anything. That means a month of just getting horrible scores, not knowing jack about anything. So the parties were coming out down. So I used to look forward to them, and then I got to the point I was like, I started forgetting about them because like I'm not even motivated. So the whole part of the huge part of what I wanted to do with that was to do it for this, right? And then I was hoping I get a companion that can run around with me, which I eventually got, but it was such a process and it wasn't very fun. A whole lot of hurry up and wait, which I know was kind of stopping the min max culture from just getting it all. But it was kind of sad because like I originally thought it was gonna be all these things I was gonna do to go customize and play with my little guy and do things just for customization purposes. So say I didn't feel like rating or being Mythic Plus or PvPing at a high level that I could have something I just go do for fun for me. And that really wasn't even there. So there's so many things about the game that I thought were gonna be there that weren't. And I thought they were gonna learn from the lessons of the past and they didn't. Master Leader is still gone. I believe tier sets are still gone. So what are they doing? Like I don't understand what the point of. And then they broke the. And this is what made me mad. There's this pew here who was crying and crying on YouTube. PvP needs vendors and blah blah blah. Which I'm not against the vendors, but they fixed the loot system for PvP, and they just didn't care what happened to PvE. So there was no counter to that. Like, did they not see what that was going to do? It made PvP the main source of gearing because it's easier. So now you have people paying people to get higher ratings so they get more gear. The game is that's not fun. There's nothing good about that. All right. What you used to want to do is get PvE gear and then go smash people with it. That's what you wanted to go do. You want to go get that big ass hammer and then go over there and hit somebody with it. That's what you wanted to do. Now it's like, oh, I'm gonna go PvP, buy this thing from the vendor, level it up, and then I'm gonna go PvP some more. And it's like, okay, well, like the game doesn't function like it's supposed to, which is you get gear from X and then you use X for whatever you want. You know, you can PvP or you can look cool in Orgrimmar, whatever you want to do. But the reality is the game doesn't work. I know a lot of PvPers, I don't want to PvE to PvP, and I get that. And I'm fine with the way the PvP system is currently, but PvE is all jacked up. Mythic Plus is confusing. It doesn't like why even do it? You're not getting gear. It's just a guess for clout, I guess. There's no artifact power, so thank God. But there's no reason to get it for those reasons. So it's just like, why are you doing Mythic Plus besides clout and getting your ARIO score up? And then you have rating, which the gear is so scarce. Like, you're lucky if you even get a piece, and the guild master has no control where it goes. So can you imagine rating for, let's just say, 8 weeks, and you got a shitbag who only shows up once a week? If he does, he's either getting high or sleeping through raid, doesn't give a shit. He shows up, you need a body, so you bring him, and he's the guy that gets loot all raid long, and no one else gets anything. And you have no say in the matter because, well, uh, so organized guilds are basically dead unless you're hardcore and you have a bunch of split raids going on. And if you play Alliance, by the way, there are no hardcore guilds. There's casual guilds at best, and casual competitive guilds at best, and that's all you have. And then so the Alliance and Horde are super imbalanced. All the good guilds went to Horde. I play Alliance for the first time ever, by the way, and it is horrible over there. You guys have no idea how bad it is on Alliance compared to Horde. It is bad, and I mean bad. I mean worse than I ever could have imagined. Bad. You guys have a really bad thing going on. I don't know how Blizzard can fix this, but they need to fix it because Alliance is so imbalanced when it comes to PvE skill. So imbalanced. Horde has all the top guilds by a long shot. And I would say even the mediocre guilds in the middle, they have all of them almost. Alliance has maybe 10 guilds that are in the middle echelon, mid upper echelon, and that's it. And it is wrong because one, I'm a Horde player for the most part. I was a diehard Horde player. So get your nasty blue flag waving asses back over to the Alliance. Don't come over here. And then two, man, this is horrible. Everyone's gonna be on the same faction. Like, what is this?
Well,
So
they just
that
may get rid of factions, man. We're all gonna be one faction soon.
gonna have to, man. At this point, it's just everything is unraveling with Blizzard. Or World of Warcraft, everything is just unraveling. The community is basically dead. Guilds are used for raiding purposes only. And if you go to Horde side, there's an abundance of guilds. There's probably plenty of pugs going on. If you go Alliance, you almost need to because they're so bad over there that you need a guild that has some kind of structure, which you can't really create as a guild master anymore. So you're in this horrible situation on Alliance side where you need to have a really strict structure in order to get a guild being successful, but you have no control over it. So it's the game is in such a bad place. Then you have Mythic Plus being one of the only things I guess you can competitively do as a 5-man because you're forced to do 20 mans, and then with that, the gear is capped at a certain point, so you can't really get good gear for raiding through Mythic Plus really. And then you could just go PvP, and the game is a mess. For the first time ever, PvEers are PvPing to raid, and then no one so there's a lot of PvEers that don't enjoy PvP, so they're not doing what they don't like to do, so they can do something that they like to do, and then there's no reward for doing what they like to do because what are you getting out of it? You're lucky to get a piece of loot. So the guild is the guild. I mean, the World of Warcraft is a complete mess. I think now we're at the new low. Every expansion we get a new low. This is a new low. World of Warcraft is down. I think last I saw was like 60% of its player base is gone. Uh, that's the active player base, so that means it's low. So when you log into, I know last time I logged into retail, I looked around the main city. I forgot what it's called, and it was hard to find people. So it's not looking good, not looking good at all. Um, so I guess looking back on it, what are some good things that Shadowlands brought? I'm having a hard time again thinking of something. What can we take from Shadowlands that we would want going in the future? I see a lot of things I want to change. I don't see anything I want to keep. Um,
I'll give you a few. So you at least have the ability to get some mounts you don't have. So there's a reason to do all four covenants on four different tunes. You can try to get all the different mounts if you really want. The transmogs. I'm trying to unlock some transmogs and working for to unlock some transmogs. That's cool. So it's kind of cool that there are some things built in that you can at least work for, and it doesn't shatter the game mechanic. Go ahead and in Torghast, trying to get to a high enough level to get cool things that are kind of like bragging rights. Okay, so I think that there are some, because Torghast is almost like Mage Tower again, and it is fun to run in there. You can either do it alone or you can do it with a couple people. So that's kind of a fun thing that you can do. It's almost kind of like it's not a 5 man, but you can play with a person or two and have a good time doing that. So there are some things. And guys, just so you guys know, we're not really trying to knock World of Warcraft. We love World of Warcraft. We love Blizzard. Like we genuinely enjoy this game, which is why we're doing this because we want it to improve, and we want this, like we would love for MMOs to be thriving, for this to be a competitive landscape where there's new ones and there's like we want World of Warcraft to rock. So we're pointing out the things that it's clear that there are some things that are not going well with World of Warcraft and they need to be fixed, and sometimes it's like you need the medicine doesn't taste good, but you need it to get better.
I mean, it's a long time coming, Blizzard. You guys needed this. Man, I've been watching you guys take wrong turns for years now, and you need to get your ass whooped. That's what you need, and so you can learn. All right, that wasn't good. That wasn't good. Yeah, it wasn't good. It wasn't good. Nothing. That was not good. So unfortunately, that's what this is, and it's sad that I have to say that. But after Cataclysm, the punches started getting harder and harder, and it's sad to say that that's because I didn't want it to be the case. Legion took a back pedal just a tad, and then it went full fledged into the deep waters of horribleness, and it keeps getting worse. And I think Torghast was is fun. I've had fun with it for a little while, and then it got kind of stale, and it definitely got challenging, But I don't know. Torghast isn't enough for me to be like, oh yeah, everything's good, or all right, I'll play the game now. Torghast is an extra component that I think should have been fun, and I don't know if it is anymore. I know for me, back when I played, it was pretty stale. It was fun for the first couple of weeks. I did a bunch of Torghast for a couple of weeks with my friends, helping everyone get through the Torghast. It was fun, but it kind of got stale after a while. And I know the last week I played, it got a little difficult, as in I had to try a little bit, but I still cleared it relatively easily. And then I still did it with my friends and stuff, and it was fun to get really cool or make fun of somebody who didn't get good abilities, but it wasn't to the point where I was like worried about it. Like we were going to clear it. So I don't know. I don't know. I feel like we need to give what should Blizzard do to bring World of Warcraft? Like, how do we fix World of Warcraft from here?
Well, I think one thing is sometimes, and this is I have to thank Zermach, who he's a buddy of mine in a guild. He went ahead and I kind of put it out. I was like, "Hey guys, what do you like about World of Warcraft?" And so one of the things that he mentioned was that there's certain quality of life changes that Blizzard has done that sometimes they should just say no to. And I think the community, we may cry out for something, but they have to be the parent and say, sorry, guys, that's going to break the game. Sorry, PvP community, but what's that going to do to rating? So I think that there's times that we just, as a community, have to accept, okay, you're the parent, Blizzard, but it seems like they do cave and they kind of give us whatever we ask for, which I guess can be commended. They're trying, but sometimes you can't say no to you can't say yes to a kid every single time. And I feel sometimes as a community we can be kind of kiddie about like oh. But it's the question is who is Blizzard trying to cater to, um, and that's I think where the change needs to happen. Are they trying to cater to like a more mature community who actually wants to raid and wants quality content and just wants things harder, Or are they trying to do it for people who only have an hour or two to play a week? And so, because they're busy with kids, and so they can't play a lot, so then they complain about not being able to do them. Who is their target audience? So I would really challenge Blizzard to reassess who they're trying to target, because like there are so many gamers who just want to get lost in your world and play the game and spend hours and do lots of cool things. So I would really challenge them to like go ahead and just play the game, or like target us who actually want to play the game. And you're not gonna get everybody, but I'll tell you there's probably a lot more people who just want to play the game versus those casuals. And you know what, I'm a casual right now, but at least in retail, but it's just I would like to go more in depth, but it's because there's no reward for rating. Like there's no reward for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that'd be definitely a good starting point to figure out what the target audience is for sure. I think it's simple though. I think they need to go back to making communities matter. Mass Looter has to go back to Guild Masters. There's no way about that. I don't know some of their policies or how they're trying to change things. It goes in line with corruption gear and Master Leader. You can't take skill out of the game. You need skill to matter. Um, and you need rewards worthy of reaching for. So community first, right? If I could, so part of me with the classic was hoping what would happen is that we would realize that classic WoW was way awesome. There's so many things that we're missing in retail, and which I did kind of do. And then we go to the TBC and go, "Oh, are we gonna just follow this path even though we know where it ends, or are we gonna fix it?" I hoped that they would take out flying in TBC. I hope that they would keep going but fix some of those issues and see how the game changed. That'd be interesting, right? So took out flying, you took out group finder, you took out cross server, you kept it this way, and you kept moving forward and see how things change and see if things did change. I think it'd be interesting. Um, but the reality is, there's going to be a lot of quality of life that needs to leave the game in order for the game to be successful again. And even then, is it going to be as successful as it once was? Probably not, because look at all these new games coming out. The game is outdated, and it's an old MMO. It's MMO was created in 2004 or in 2021. It's been a long time, but if you can hit those core principles right, a lot of games are rushing. They try and do something inventive or innovative, and then they half-fast some things that really matter, which we had in spades back in classic TBC and vanilla and Wrath, before we knew, or before we got used to this group finder and all those other things. So if I was going to give advice to Blizzard, I would take group finder out. I would consolidate servers. I would make quests and things so that you needed groups, you needed to join guilds. I'd give guild master back to guild master uh, guild loot or master loot to guild master so they can actually do what they need to do and create structures. They're unique, and every guild was a little different, and that's something that should be allowed. If you want to be an elitist prick and only give to your friends and then trickle down, then you'll have to learn from those mistakes, and you'll realize that no one wants to be in your guild, right? And so on and so on. In a way, we have to let toxicity in order to learn not to be toxic. So Raider.io has like toxicity to it. We definitely need to find a solution to that. I don't have one off the top of my head. Um, it already shows Raider your raid experience. So if you raid well, but you don't do Mythic Plus that much, it'll show. And sometimes that gets you invited to a group. But ultimately, I think if we don't do the cross server and we do just server, I think that may correct that issue. Because now instead of running with people all over the world, you have to run people on your server. So now you're actually looking for groups. You have to show you did this key, whatever. So your IO score will still be there, but it's gonna be more about who do you have there and do you want to run a key or not. and then you'll make adjustments. And I think what that'll do is create a better player base of people with better scores. So going back to closing the servers down to one server, you play with your server may correct the Mythic Plus issue. Um, you should have to run to your dungeon. You shouldn't have to be able to just pop in there with the group finder. Um, so let's see, I got the Master Looter. I got take looking for raid out. Looking for raid isn't a thing. Sorry, needs to go. If you want to know what happens in the story, I think there should be a cinematic. And what would be cool is I'm trying to remember if this happened in Wrath or not. It's been so long, I could be remembering this wrong. But I remember it being server wide. When someone killed the last boss on the highest difficulty, there was something went out to the whole server. I remember correct, right? Everyone knows. Oh, they killed it. They finally killed Lich King. You know what I mean? And everybody knew. Um, Something like that, and then a cinematic place, right? And then you can go to a certain place, and you can watch the cinematic. So now you can see the cutscenes. Now the whole server now knows what happens when someone clears the boss in the highest difficulty. What this will cause is the server community to want to work together to clear the content, and then two, they'll be excited for their own community when they do finally achieve and kill the boss. Now everyone's excited. Oh, what's going to happen? And now when you log in, you'll get the cinematic played to you, or when you go to that specific place, you can watch the cinematic as many times as you want. I think there's actually a toy now that does it, so you just plug your toy into it. But that would be more realistically better, in my opinion. What you want to do is go back to your community. You want to build the communities up. You want people to rely on their communities and want to play in their communities. I think another thing that they really have abandoned is the crafting system, which I know you hit on a couple times. Crafting is completely worthless. Even today, like you level up your piece of armor over and over and over again, and then those are the levels of your legendary. Man, that's not good crafting system. That's very lazy. Um, think of a cool in-depth craft system and maybe have the raids drop mats instead of loot all the time, and have those materials go to crafting something cool, and some of those things being best in slot. And I think everything, if you can craft your gear, I think that'd be a really cool way of making crafting useful again. It's just sad to see this whole part of the game just be useless. Um, so hopefully they can change and get crafting back on board. Um, I wish I had a better in-depth way of saying to do the crafting, but I just don't. I think many materials from raids would be a good start, but it needs to be in depth and it needs to give really good loot. It needs to be a reason for you to want to use the crafting system. Otherwise, it just like who cares? You're gonna get something better from a dungeon, and I'm not gonna do it. Craft a dungeon set. Be able to craft a dungeon set from completing the dungeon or something like that. What do you think?
Well, I
how do
think
we fix World of
I
Warcraft? Let's
think
put it that way.
with the crafting, I think you're absolutely right. So for example, Burning Crusade's coming out, right? And um, so I am right now an herbalist and an alchemist, and I enjoy being an herbalist and an alchemist, and I know how important pots are going to be, and flasks are going to be. And honestly, to make money in Burning Crusade, alchemists make a good amount of money, and I know this is true because I've lived to that expansion. However, tailoring is so important for me as a healing priest. That Primal Mooncloth set, like I need it. Like I just so, and I'm just like it's agonizing for me because I'm like, dang it, because I have to drop and I have all these recipes, but it's like it's so important that I kind of if I'm gonna play Burning Crusade, I have to take up tailoring because I need to be able to make that set because it's that important. Crafting should be that impactful. Not that I'm gonna gear up all of my things, but there's those few pieces that I just can't go without. I need to do it. I need to do it. And so it's good to have that importance, and to give players those choices because I could choose to say, you know what, I'm just gonna go ahead and wait till T4 and I can get those pieces, and I'm not gonna be as geared and as good as I could be. I could make that choice, But again, we're very min-max culture, aren't we? And it's like, oh, but dang, like I could be the best I can earlier on, man. And I should have some other tailors. I should have 4 or 5 tailors so I can make lots of Primal Moon cloth because I'm gonna need like tons of Primal Moon cloth to make all these different things. So it's trades were that important. Like I had a buddy who was literally had 10 tailors back in the day. Like it was that important, you know. So that there's no importance now. Um, it's like we put in all this work and all this effort, and there's just that lack of reward. So I think it's just this cause and effect that I would love for Blizzard to think about, where it's like, okay, if this person raids, what do they get, or what is that building towards? If this person PvPs, what is that building towards? It's just kind of like, well, there's not. It doesn't seem like there's a clear path. Sorry, my camera cut out, or a clear plan. It's just kind of there, and so there's not like an A, B, C, D. It's just, well, try A. Oh, hey, try this over here instead of this path or this process or this. There's just nothing. There's no progression. It's just okay. That's it. So I love the idea of getting crafting materials. So you want to clear the raids to get the sinews or to get the different things from the bosses, the elemental fires or whatever it is. But you're going in there and you're getting all these different things. So that way, so I gotta go raid. So that way I can then get that thing. So I can craft and just intertwine and interlink these things. So that way it's like it's a complete game from the crafting to the PvP. Heck, even the PvE that I want to go to the PvP things, and maybe I don't have to. Maybe it's something that you can go and get, and then you can list on the auction house, and that's a benefit for you if you want a PvP. And then I can buy that, and hey, maybe I can list my PvE things on the auction house or my PvE, and then there's this economy where hey, I'm getting rewarded for the things that I'm gathering and that I'm doing. But right now, it seems to me that what's happened is the store is becoming more and more important, and more money is coming out of the economy, and we're seeing WoW tokens. So okay, so that's gold and money leaving the server. I can buy a pet, I can buy this, I can buy that. So it's becoming store heavy versus a player economy. Um, there's really not an economy anymore. It's just, I guess I can buy some things so I can get for my transmog set. I mean, that's kind of what is left, I guess. I mean, I don't know. So, what to do to improve the game? I think everything you said was very good. I would definitely beef up the guild, beef up the community, give guild masters more control. That, you know what, if you want to have a pug where you can set it to just be everyone gets loot, and that used to be that way, or you can have a guild master like looting things and guild. That's honestly having that choice, because people would be like, hey, how are you guys gonna do loot? Oh, okay, yeah, like individual loot is great. Like we like that. And sometimes you would just do that because it's like, honestly, you know, people don't really. We'll just do individual. We did that, but then there was times like, well, no, it's better if we actually loot this certain things. This boss is gonna. So it would be nice to have that control back. Versus, it seems like we keep getting less and less and less control, and now we have no control. So yeah, let's build up the community, build up the trades, interconnect things, so it's actually a complete game and everything is dependent and reliant on each other, and it's not so. I think also just I hate the group finder. I hate how individualized this game is. Heck, I don't even need a friend. I could just get the companion that you mentioned. Like I just literally get a companion. Like I don't even need a friend anymore. Like it's like what is this game? Like I don't need anybody. Like I miss questing. I miss needing people. I miss the community. And I think that's what retail really is missing. And the people who are there care about your IO score, and that's it. And so I want to play. I want a world to get lost with my friends again, and just and I think that's the only benefit about the current expansion. It is cool to explore. The zones are beautiful. There are some fun quests out there. There are some unique experiences. But it becomes very redundant and very old very quickly because you start doing it all and you're just like, oh, I guess I'm gonna do that world quest again. Oh, I guess I'll do that one. So it's very repetitive. And so what would make it less repetitive is the dependence on each other and hanging out with your friends. Because Legion, we had a guild and a community, and it was repetitive, guys. It was absolutely repetitive, but we had a community, and that's what's really been lost from vanilla to now. Is that's what we loved about vanilla and BC, the community, and there isn't one now. And so that's what I would love. I think the biggest reward that Blizzard can give us is things that celebrate the community and build the community up, and heck, even have like build up the guild, have like cool tabards that you can like, walk around Orgrimmar and you have this really cool tabard with your guild symbol and like some achievements or just cool rewards that as a guild, like I would be excited. Like we can have like set up a table in Orgrimmar and it has like your guild name on it with your guild tabard, and it's like just like some cool fun things where it's just like bragging rights. Bam! Hey, look at what we did. Like,
Or
and
do you
like,
remember in Cata when they had the banners you could throw down?
yeah.
So the way it used to work is by whatever you accomplish with your guild, there'd be little trinkets and things that would go on there. So I think they got rid of it. But if you have a guild that's old enough, it might still have it. So I know my original Dark Creep and Cataclysm had a really cool banner. I could throw it down. It was just bigger than everybody else's, had all kinds of stuff on it. I ended up losing that guild, so it's gone now. But it was really cool because that was what that was going for. So like you could throw down your banner, someone throws on there is like a dinky little stick, a little flag on it, and you throw your big old like big old huge banner, all these medals and stuff hanging off of it. You're like, yo, we do stuff over here, dude. You know? So it was really cool. And then you could banner somebody's like what we used to do is like someone killed me out in the world where I'm a tank, right? So I was a tank for most of Cataclysm. Someone ganked me, like we would kill them and then we throw our guild tabard inside their body. Like, yo, you just got owned by this guild for messing with our guild master. So it was like sending a message like, hey, you just got pwned by us here. Boom. Throw our banner in. It's a big old huge banner with all our decorations on it and stuff. It was such a cool thing. So unfortunately they ruined it. But that's something that they could have done and that would have been really cool. I really liked it. I didn't mean to interrupt what you were saying, but yeah.
No, but that's again thinking of rewards that actually, because I think that's what's missing right now with Blizzard. What are the rewards that we get for PvP, for PvE, for doing the content? So as a community, really having somebody who is passionate about the game, who really is passionate about creating rewards that as players we can rally behind. I think whoever's in that position, that needs to be somebody who's like, okay, super creative. Like that's literally a paid position at Blizzard is the guy who's in charge of the rewards. Like who is doing that because we want to be rewarded, and it could just be appearance things and fun things and banner things, and but it just needs to be something that like we're proud of, like celebrate our community, celebrate our guild, celebrate, so that would be super super cool. Like I would love that, having like healer like things. So like if I have like different like almost like the military, how you have like all your bars, so like all these different raids that you did, like so it's not like I have to look up your achievement, but something I can throw down and be like, yeah, look at all this. I have all these achievements that I did, AOC, before, the what's that called when you do it before the
Cutting edge.
cutting edge. Thank you. So here's all my cutting edges, or here's all my. It's just like just fun little things, and it doesn't even have to be a super big thing, but it just those little things sometimes make a big difference. But I think community things that are gonna just like support the community and just I don't know. That's what I think Blizzard really needs to get on is who is their target audience, how can they build their community, and then create rewards that are specific and target those things. And I think if Blizzard can do those things, I think we got a game going again. And yes, we understand this is 2004. We understand it's not going to look as good as Ashes' Creation or New World or some of these other games coming out. That's totally understandable. But we love the game. Like let's restore. There's a reason so many people flocked to World of Warcraft Classic, and there's still a lot of people who are going to play TBC because they like the old community that they had. So can you bring that back to the new one? If you can, I think you're going to see a lot more people who want to play it, and make the emphasis on rating and like do a little bit return to the old. And I've been complaining, oh, well, they keep doing recycling the old things. Well, and put the emphasis back on rating and the community and reward us for that. That's kind of a recipe that we all are hungry for.
I just think it was really cool ideas as you were talking. So there's a way they could actually implement that. So they could do the banner, whatever the case may be, but they also could do player housing and guild housing, guild halls, something that we've been asking for a really long time. If they could do a guild hall that everybody has, or whatever the case may be, I mean, there's so many cool aspects they could put in there. You do something similar to World or Star Wars: The Old Republic, where you have a picture of the boss that you killed on whatever difficulty, and then there could be little markers for pre-nerf, post-nerf that they could put on there. So if you did kill it pre-nerf, for example, when I got my mistress kill and Legion, like that would give me extra kudos whenever I threw that kill down. So if I wanted my most powerful kill, I could throw that down. Like, yo, he killed that pre-nerf, bro. Like, So it's just like it's just cool to have that those little things. Or I think you should have player housing, and then you should have guild halls, right? And I think that you should be able to visit other guild halls, right? So if you want to go visit the top guild on the server, you can go check out his guild hall and be like, yo, check out how dope their guild hall looks, you know. And I think they should also have things in the guild hall that guilds want to go on there to do, right? So you want to go to your guild hall to do raid strategies or whatever the case may be. I think you should be able to put down a hologram of a boss and then mimic mechanics or whatever the case may be, or pretend or put down markers and have everyone get in their position, have like almost like a little like a training center or whatever, where they can go in there and they can actually you can try and draw almost what the raid encounters are going to look like in the future. Not give them a simulation of the fight at all, but you can throw down a X, Y, and Z. You could throw down markers like circles of don't stand there, don't stand there, don't stand there. You guys need to be 10 yards apart. You can put your /10 on. You can kind of stand around, and the raid leaders can literally live time go over raid strategies. I think that would be really cool. And you can put that in the guild hall, and then you can have achievements or whatever the case may be. You can even make your own achievements or your own things that you can put on the wall there. So if you're the top DPS, they can make a cool little thing where top DPS to the week, he can put your picture on the wall, whatever the case may be. There's cool things that they can do, but you need to give the guilds more control, and then you need to give us more things to build a community around. So,
And what's cool
so
about what you just said is that's not so much something that needs to be managed by people in Blizzard, because what ends up happening is now the guild master is managing those things and those functionalities, and so it's kind of its own, kind of like you're having your community dole out rewards too. So you're kind of like delegating, saying, "Hey, guild masters, here's some things you can do," and then now they're fueling the community, they're fueling the rewards, and so that's a really clever and cool way of doing some rewards.
yeah, I'm not taking all the credit. I learned a lot of this from Star Wars. Like I said, Star Wars, when we got our guild ship and we down all the content, we had our ship was decked out. People used to want to come by and see our ship, and I'd be like, "Yeah, come on in," and then I'd show them, and people would just be completely in awe. Some people wanted to join our guilds from seeing our guild ship, and I was like, "Man, dude, like, come on in," and it was just cool, like. But without some kind of system like that, there's nothing to brag about. And then too, like I said, the server identity is important. I think if we bring that back, that'd be good. And I think that's something that I know New World might have some like cross world PvP, whatever, and you do the dungeons, or the PvP, but like having that identity on your server seems like it's going to be something that a lot of these new MMOs are going back to. So World of Warcraft has that, or had that. They need to go back to that. I know it'd be major growing pains for a lot of people who like the quality of life of Group Finder and looking for raid. But if we take that out and we make it more about the community, I think that in the end, you might lose a few people, but I think more people are gonna start enjoying themselves through interactions, and you're gonna see a player growth, which hasn't happened in World of Warcraft in a long time.
Yeah, and like if you take a look at, like, you can have, let's say there's a banner that has two sides. There's like the PvE side, there's the PvP side. So if you have a guild that actually has lots of PvP things and like you want both, groups in your guild to like, oh yeah, guys, you guys can do PvP. You be our PvP guys, yeah. You're beefing up our banner over here. Hey, so it's like everyone in the guild has a purpose and, like, and a function, and you can feel proud of, yeah, I see all these PvP things. Yeah, I don't raid, but look, yeah, look at all the stuff that I've contributed. I think that that could be really, really cool. So that's just one simple reward to build a community, to build a guild, and just make it more about us. And again, that moment where it's like, we won this, we got this, not, oh, I got my legendary today, I got this achievement today. It's like, hey, this is a we thing. So I think building up the we and building up the community is something that would really be a big thing. We would love to see not just World of Warcraft, but any MMO really thinking about the community, thinking about the guild, and ways to promote that and reward those efforts and bring that community just stronger and bring them together.
So I don't want to be a dead horse too much. So is there anything that you think other MMOs should look at World of Warcraft and say, "Oh, I want that," or "I don't want that"? Um, More so on the what do they want? What would you like to see that World of Warcraft did or has done in the past that you think that future MMOs should 100% take going forward?
I think one of the things is being careful not to oversimplify things. I think when you have, for example, like the trees, right, for the all of the talents, and World of Warcraft cut that out. I think this is Star Wars Galaxy's, fatal flaw too. When Sony came in and they bought it and they said, hey, 32 classes down to 8. Just removing things from the game. I think that you really need to be cautious about that. If you wanted to do something like that, I think that's where like EverQuest came out with EverQuest 2, and they actually had different mechanics, different ways of doing things, different systems, different formula. I don't see why there has not been a World of Warcraft 2. I don't know why we're continuing. And there can be achievements and things that transfer over, absolutely. But I don't know why we don't have an updated game that we can actually have new graphics and new things. So I think just it's yes, it's been a long but standing game, but the game had its rise, it had its plateau, and we're definitely seeing this decline. Well, if we had World of Warcraft 2, hey, all right, well, let's go. Guild Wars 2. I mean, they had, I mean, so and some people would say though, but Guild Wars 2 and EverQuest 2, those didn't last. Well, EverQuest 2 came out when World of Warcraft um, was coming around, right? So really bad timing, and World of Warcraft was a monster, and it was here. It's still here to stay, right? So I think that that's not necessarily EverQuest 2's fault. It's just, but I would love to see, a new system, a new mechanic. But you have something complex with your crafting system, something important. And the World of Warcraft has never had complex crafting, right? It's pretty straightforward and simple. But now it's just there's nothing there. I mean, there's just nothing.
There's no reward for crafting,
Yeah,
and there's nothing that you're giving that's quality enough to really make an impact in gameplay.
correct. And so I mean, at one point there was like, hey, at least I can make myself a flying carpet. And I remember that was kind of the big thing about tailoring. It was like, well, tailoring's not that great, but hey, I have a flying carpet. Ooh, or hey, I'm an
I
engineer.
may or may not have had a Death Knight that was tailoring that was flying on a carpet. I may not have had that.
And then engineering when it wasn't so great, but hey, you made some engineering mounts, and so there was at least some sort of, well, I can at least still do this, or I can have, but there's not even that now. It's just there's nothing. So it would be, if looking at other MMOs, looking at World of Warcraft, I think you really, if there's some things that weren't broken that World of Warcraft tried to fix. I think World of Warcraft really tried to make it so it was super inclusive of everybody versus, hey, here's our target audience. These are the people that we're going after. But instead of focusing on what was working, World of Warcraft was really trying to include everybody and trying to get a bigger audience. So instead of the game being deep and focused, it became very wide and shallow, and people joined the game and there really wasn't much there. And there isn't much there. It's like there's not a lot of depth to this game right now. Before it was like, holy cow, how do I get to Black Temple? Well, let's level you up. Let's get you through some dungeons. Let's get you through some heroics. Let's get you through these beginning raids. Then we got to clear this attunement for this raid. Then that attunement for this raid. Then we get you through Hyjal. And then we get you to Black Temple. That's a lot of layers to get to your end goal. And some people say it's too much. But again, right now there is no depth. It's just like I'm going to pay somebody some gold and they're going to go clear heroic, you know, and then I'm done. I get the achievement. That's literally what people are doing.
So what do you think that other MMOs should take from World of Warcraft, and what should they abandon or definitely not take?
I think they need to stay very focused on who they're targeting, not trying to make the game super easy, super simplistic. I think they really want to think about the layers and the depth of the game, versus just making this superficial. You can't please everybody. Choose who you're going to please, and then otherwise, World of Warcraft, it's gotten so it's like they try to make it so accessible to everybody, and what ended up happening was their hardcore players basically stopped playing. The people who were really building the communities, the guild leaders, all of like these leaders basically said, "See ya," and then what are they left with? The super casual people who are like, "Oh, I love the story," or "Oh, hey, I love." Okay, there really isn't a whole lot in the game right now, and I really feel that that's something that they can. I think every MMO should really look at World of Warcraft and say, okay, build a complex, beautiful game, and don't try to please you know what? We understand that you guys want that. However, you know, Daddy knows best. Sorry, community. We understand you want that, but
Goes
that's not
against
the
our
game.
vision. Yeah, goes against the vision that you want. It
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah, I mean, and I think that's what I actually that's advice I give to guild masters. Is build the guild and the vision that you want us to see it. Don't cater to what your officers or what your guild tells you. Your guild should be formed in a way that it fills your vision, so they should be supportive of your vision. So if you're building it correctly, building it in your vision how you want it to be, the officers should be content with it. Not only that, but trying to help you, and then your guild should be trying to also push in that direction. So, as long as you're building your guild the way you're supposed to, and you're building the game how you're supposed to, you should have a vision of where you're trying to take it, right? And obviously, we're the consumers, so we're in common. We're going to come, and some people are going to like it, some people are. But if you do like it, you got someone that's stuck, then maybe their friends will come play, and their friends will explain, listen, this is how the game works, this is how it is, but it's really cool because this reason, this reason, this reason, and now he's gonna bring his friend, and so on, and that's how MMOs work. It's all community and word of mouth. So do something good and be great at doing that one thing, and you'll have a good reputation for doing so, and that's what will happen with World of Warcraft. So just go back to doing that, really, right? I would suggest for future MMOs or content creators to, when they're looking at World of Warcraft, things to take. I'm going to agree with you and say the layered progression of this raid to this raid to this raid. It keeps all the raids still relevant. World of Warcraft went away from that, and in the later expansions, and it kills part of the game. So instead of those old raids being still used, they're used for transmog instead of what they should be used for. It should gear up for the next raid. Um, and then on top of that, really, what I would take from it is the smaller raid size seems to have been linked to interactions and more gameplay and a bigger broad community with smaller communities with interactions. So smaller raid sizes creates more interactions. More interactions means more people playing the game. So I would suggest that future MMOs have smaller raid sizes. And my blueprint for this, which I've been active on Ash Creations forums saying this, and I've said it and preached it over the years in Worldcraft and all my guilds. Whatever your one group size is, which every game is a little bit different, a raid should be somewhere around the size of two groups. And if you do that, um, that means you have two groups basically. They're coming together to form a raid, and tackling raid content. This seems to be like the perfect balance, in my opinion, on not bringing too many players, but still having a big enough group where you need to feel like your actual raid. I think the raid size is huge. I think that's what gave Wrath of the King such a nice little bump. And I think the drop from 40 to 25 helped them in TBC. And I think when I went to Legion and we had the 5M Mythic Plus come out, I think it also helped Legion out. The accessibility of content is huge. So being able to make the Mythic Plus groups and everyone's jumping in different groups and there's so many Mythic Pluses being ran, people were active. People were running those Mythic Pluses, and that caused interactions, good and bad. But it was causing interactions. It made people want to play more, to get their score up, to get the gear, to get their artifact power. And there were only 5 people. You only need 5 people, so people were able to jump into them relatively quickly and easily and start smashing content, and that's what you want. Um, Obviously, it should be some layers of progression there, though, right? You don't want people just to rush through everything and be done. We do have a lot of min maxers, so. And then the other thing I would say is just to watch out for the min max culture because it is very real. So you need to think about that when you're making your content, because if you create a system that you can just rush through, it's going to get rushed through. And then if there's something that is better than something else, people are going to all flock to that one thing, right? So these are things that content creators need to think about when they're creating content, because it is very important with today's MMO player. They're very min maxy, very sweaty players. They have neck beards. They'll do stuff. All right. So you need to be, you got to think about these kind of things. So, and I know that you might, I think of Ashes a lot when I think about things like this, is that you want this immersive thing, but what you're not compensating for is how min maxy people are today. And the old MMOs we had back in the day, even classic TBC and WoW, we saw it and we will see it. And these older MMOs, if you brought them out today, it would be out. It would be played completely different. Completely different. You had a guy that did Calculus 3 or something. Man, that dude has nothing on the sweaty neckbeard that's coming in the TBC. I'm telling you right now, that TBC neckbeard dude who dropped out of high school playing World of Warcraft, that dude is about to smash that Calculus 3 player. I'm telling you right now. He's done so much research. He's been playing TBC the last 10 years, and he hasn't been looking at Calculus 3 at all. He just been doing nothing but TBC. That dude's going to come in and just ruin TBC content. He's about to smash it so fast. Hell, he's probably 65 and doing heroic dungeons already. You know what I mean? Like he's these guys are on a whole nother level. These
Well,
guys
and
are
that's what I wish for even the TBC release, that you hear people in the practice servers are soloing dungeons. Like that did not happen back in the day. So I think, yes, I think there are going to be people who are smoking things, but they're coming. This is not the game that we had back then. It's if they're going to water this down, and that's a great example. Like if you water down a game, and we're talking about deep versus shallow, right? So I love a good soup. Soup is good. But if you try to spread out that soup and you just try to add a bunch of water to it, yeah, you can feed more people, but it's going to have no taste. It's going to have no flavor. And that's what really ends up happening when you just try to like make it, okay, let's try to make this as many people as possible. Make a great soup, feed your table of 8 or your table of 12. You don't have to feed the world with this game. And I realize that that's like, but every single business is, who is your target audience? Who are you trying to target? You can't get everybody. Even World of Warcraft didn't get everybody. I mean, they had what, the peak 12 million, which is a lot. But there was Guild Wars. There was still Ultima Online going on. There was all these other games that were taking players, and World of Warcraft didn't get everybody. I mean, they had a good chunk. But then what ends up happening is, okay, we're gonna try to get them all, and that only like made it like this game became a tasteless, flavorless, and I have watered down soup, and that's what we're sitting with. I have watery soup that has a carrot in it, and I'm like, where's the chicken? Where's the beef, man? Like, I want some meat in my soup, and that's what the game's really missing.
with that analogy. Also, it's Imagine we were a stick figure man back in the day. We are now beefy giant Goliaths. We're going to eat that soup that you gave us 10 years ago in one bite. And then we're not even going to taste it. It's so small now. And but we're looking the kind of meals we're used to devouring are these huge monumental pots, like huge Goliath level pots of soup what we're used to getting, not these little one little bowl for one little person. We're used to devouring enough to feed 1,000. Like that's a level of difficulty we're used to. And then we're coming back to older content, so it's not going to be. And not to mention, we know every little detail about how this works and that works, and we've been testing for the last 10 years. So this is why TBC and Classic, like I said, they're really going to fall faster than normal. But if you brought out a brand new game with just similar difficulty, similar everything, but game that would have been well for back in those days, we're gonna run right through it. It's gonna be like knife through butter. So you just have to think about, like I said, the min max culture. Like we're on a whole nother level these days. We had people that had 5 or 10 tailors back in the day. Today, you probably have people with 2 or 3 counts with 10 tailors. So it's a whole nother thing going on. It looks like your camera went out there, Rick. Yeah. So that was really the biggest thing. I just want to make sure that we gave feedback to future content creators, and we gave feedback to World of Warcraft so they can so we can kind of see. And if you don't know, maybe you're not a World of Warcraft player, or maybe you're a new generation Warcraft player that came in, a Warlords of Draenor or something like that. Um, the history, unfortunately, before you came, the game was so much different. It's sad that you didn't get the chance to experience it.
Here's a good example. The game was legendary, then it kind of became epic, then it became rare, then it became common, and now the game is kind of whites. You have white gear, that's what the game is, and we don't want the game to become grays because that's, I guess there is a step down, and we want our legendary game back. And we believe that Blizzard can do it, but it needs our feedback and it needs our comments and it needs what needs to be changed and updated. I just want to thank the people who I had a lot of people kind of give me some feedback. So specifically Nixia, Twiggy, and Zermach, thank you so much for your guys' comments when I reached out. So just want to give you a shout out. Thank you for your feedback. But it's going to take MMO Avengers like that who just went ahead and, they're contributing their thoughts and their guys contribute your thoughts as well, and you'll get a little shout out too.
Yeah, please. Like I said, we're looking for people to help us join the cause. We're trying to save MMOs, so please do subscribe. And I'm gonna be getting our Discord. I thought I was gonna do it last week, but I'm gonna get it up there just so you guys can jump in and start conversation with us, and maybe it could help skew what our next video is going to be about, and so on and so on, and help bring up subjects to us that we know. It's hard to think of it and keep notations of every little detail of every game and how to improve and things and qualities that we want to see go forward. So please comment below if there's a quality that you found in one game or another game that you think would be better for all future MMOs, and put it in the comment section and we can talk about it. Even brainstorm new ideas would be great. Things you found in other games are just really cool. Comment, put that stuff out there so that the content creators who come here, um, to the people who are creating MMOs, can look at it and be like, yo, that's a really good idea. I'm gonna make something cool.
Well, thanks for joining us for Blizzard's World of Warcraft, the king of all MMOs that we kind of feel has turned into a pauper. But we really, we would love the king to come back, or if there's going to be someone else who comes along and is the new king. We just want MMOs to thrive again, and we want them to live. So welcome you to join us on that adventure as we give feedback to those content creators. So thanks for joining us, guys. And I am Ricayu.
And I'm Tarnish.
And thanks for joining us on our MMO Avengers World of Warcraft Retail Edition.
We're out.
Out. We're out. Do, do, do. Oh, yeah. Fading to black. No, we're fading to black. Fading to black. Yeah, they can still hear us. Goodbye, guys. Bye. Bye.